What's going on, guys? I have absolutely no idea if this is going to work today. I don't know if this is functioning. You got to help me out, okay? Are we currently in vertical mode right now? Like, when you're watching this stream right now, do you see it vertically? Do you see it as in when you open your phone, is it showing up on your whole phone screen? Or is it showing horizontally? This is the first time trying this, so I need your help. I need you to help let me know if it's working in the horizontal or the vertical format. Only then will we be able to continue and find out, just see what we're going to do, basically. Okay, guys? So let me know how we're doing it. Let me know how it looks if you're watching it on your phone. And we'll decide whether we're going to continue or not. So guys, let me know in the chat. Whole screen on the phone, Annie says. Great. So that means that... Okay, you guys are arguing about who was first in the chat or not. There's something more important going on here, guys. We need to know if the stream is functioning as I need it to function. So tell me, does it look good? Okay, Annie's saying it looks good. So, okay then, great. Well, apparently we're in vertical and I'm using my camera. And you guys can see me in the shorts feed, I suppose. If that's functioning, then that is great. You guys saying too quiet? No, that's not good. Is it too quiet, guys? Everybody let me know if it's too quiet, if it's I can somehow fix that, I guess. But let's have a look, see if I can bump up the sound. Give me a second. Let's see here. Doesn't seem like I can bump it up anymore. So if it's too quiet, guys, then some of you saying it sounds okay. No, sounds good. Okay, then great. Well, I can't make it any louder, unfortunately. So just turn up your volume, please, guys. Turn it all the way to the top. All right, and I'll monitor the volume from my side. Oh, great! I'm so glad it's all working correctly as it should. That is bloody brilliant, isn't it? Very good news. So today we're going to take a look at the recent Piers Morgan versus vegans debate that happened. Piers Morgan took on some vegans, specifically the vegans who made Christspiracy. Do you guys know about that? The new documentary, Christspiracy. So it's about Jesus, and it has an animal rights message in it. And basically, Piers Morgan ripped into some of our fellow vegans over that. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to look at how this went down, and yeah, we're gonna watch that, react to it. So guys, with the poll, right? So there's a poll up at the top to say yes, I'm vegan, or no, I'm not vegan. You guys got to let me know how many non-vegans we have, because I can't currently see it. This new system, this new setup is a little bit sketchy, guys. It's a bit janky. It's difficult to see things, certain things. So I'm going to need your help with that, okay? You have to keep me updated when I ask. Is that all right, guys? Give me some broccolis in the chat if that's okay, all right? Always blazing vegan. What's up, mate? How you doing? Philip is here. Melanie, what's up? Terry, how you doing? Pump up the volume. Bianca, hey, what's up? Goofs and Gaffs, how you doing? Vegan Legion, Kevin Hawthorne, hello guys, how are you doing? So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the chat the whole time, so always feel free to shoot questions at me, especially if you're not a vegan. For example, we have got somebody in the chat already called P Nugget who says, I love eating meat cows. Really? You love eating meat cows? I mean, what's the difference between a meat cow and what are the types of cows are there? I'm a bit lost on that one. Guess that's a bit of a fail from you, because all cows that are killed become meat, don't they? They people turn them into meat and eat them. So I mean, I guess they're all, unfortunately, technically meat cows. Weird comment, bro. But anyway, glad you're here. Hopefully one day, I hope one day that people won't see cows as meat, and instead they'll see them as the animals that are deserving of protection and defense, and that we shouldn't hurt, like we see dogs and cats, and we should definitely... Oh, look, wow, the trolls are quick today. Well, not trolls, but the non-vegans, at least, are quick today. Human meat has the most bioavailable protein. Oh, wait a minute, no. I thought it was humane meat. William, thanks, mate. Nice one. Yeah, taking the mic, nice one. I thought you were a meat eater saying humane meat. So shall we take a look at this video then, guys? We're going to jump straight into it because, hey, it's a long video and... Oh, no, why did this move? My background shifted for some reason. It looked a bit janky, didn't it? Let's put that back in there. All right, so let's have a look then at this video. So here's the video in question. and it's Piers Morgan blasts vegan filmmakers who claim Jesus was vegetarian. So this is already off to a bad start, because let me tell you something, guys. Spoiler alert. They never claimed Jesus was vegetarian. That didn't happen. They didn't say that. It didn't exist. It didn't happen. It's a total complete fabrication. Didn't happen. They did not say that Jesus was a vegetarian. So we're off to a bad start. But this is a real car crash of an interview. Let me tell you. It's this interview. This Piers Morgan versus Kip and Cam from Christspiracy is a complete and utter car crash, guys. So we're going to react to it. We're going to take a look at how this went down, and we're going to laugh about it. We have to laugh. We have to laugh, all right? Let's dive in.
Give me one piece of evidence that proves that Jesus was a vegetarian.
Do you think Jesus would kill an animal? Because at the time, back in the day, he would be the one who killed it.
Matthew 14, and he caused the fishermen's nets to be filled on 2 different occasions.
The forerunner of the movement, John the Baptist, was known in multiple historical sources to eat only plant-based foods.
What's that got to do with Jesus? You're just naming other people.
Piers, what was served at the Last Supper? Do you remember?
Well, why don't you tell me what you think was served? Veggie burgers?
Well, they say this is massively, massively groundbreaking, and it's going to really be a new chapter for Christianity.
All right, so if you don't know the history here and what's going on, so these guys here...
guys want him to be a vegetarian so badly, they're now prepared to twist the actual Bible to do that.
Piers, there's an ethical way to eat an avocado.
You are party to mass murder. Mass murder.
All right, so basically, guys, just to give you like the heads up now, because I thought that was finished. Now it's finished. So these two on the, I guess it will be your left, I guess. I don't know, whatever. The guys who are sat together, these are both filmmakers called Cam and Kip. Kip has made other documentaries, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy. They're both animal rights activists. They're both vegans. And they, well, Cam is a new documentary filmmaker. Kip, the guy in the hat, is an experienced documentary filmmaker. They've done incredible documentaries exposing a lot of industries that involve animals. And they're both very kind, very good-hearted people. They've recently made this documentary called Christspiracy, which digs deep into a 2,000-year-old cover-up that's been hiding the truth about Jesus Christ, about Jesus, what he did, who he was, and what he stood for. They've actually exposed a lot in their documentary. So I highly recommend you watch the documentary. Now, let me tell you something. Piers Morgan hasn't watched the documentary. Even during this interview, when this interview was done, he hadn't even seen the documentary yet. And that's ridiculous. He criticizes them. He criticizes their documentary. He's not even seen it. Ridiculous. But this interview is just wild. All right, so let's jump in. Before we do, let me quickly read this comment here from Aaron Ittus, who says, "Hey, I'm not vegan, but respect the choice for those who want to be. I hope that vegans and non-vegans can come together and work on improving standards for people and animals without hate and negativity." Aaron, nice to have you here, mate. I appreciate you coming here as a meat eater, as a non-vegan, and being open-minded. I think that meat eaters and vegans absolutely can come together, but we can come together in agreeing that it is wrong to hurt animals. You agree with that? You're against animal abuse. I am against animal abuse. That's where we come together. But what that means, Aaron, what that means is you no longer pay for animal abuse. For you, that's a step you've got to take. And then we align fully, because then we are actually coming together and working on improving the world. But as long as you, Aaron, fund these industries that are just doing horrendous things to animals, unfortunately, you're part of the horror that they face. Like, an animal, I guess, Aaron, I guess for you, when you see an animal who's been rescued and you say, "Oh my God, that's so amazing. Thank you, vegans, for rescuing this poor little animal." We're rescuing them from you, mate. And I know that hurts to hear that, as you seem like a compassionate person, but that's the reality, bro. So thank you for being here, mate. Appreciate it. And just please, digest what I said there, and don't take it as an offense. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just trying to speak the truth and, try and help you make a connection. Because at the end of the day, mate, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's important that we speak frankly to each other, isn't it? All right, let's dive into this video. Let's see what Piers Morgan has to say to these guys.
Well, Kip Anderson and Cameron Waters are filmmakers whose hit documentaries have brought the apparent horrors of eating meat and fish to millions of viewers around the world. Now, Cowspiracy took aim at the farming industry. Seaspiracy was, well, you guessed it, all about fish. Now Kip and his team are back with a provocative, to say the least, new movie which threatens to blow the lid off veganism and religion.
Is there any threat or danger making a film like this?
Yeah, you just wait and see. You just wait and see. They will stop at nothing to keep this truth from getting known.
Is there a spiritual way to kill an animal? I'll put it this way. How would Jesus kill an animal?
Is there a peaceful way to kill an animal?
Well, Christspiracy, which just launched to, I have to say, truly diabolical reviews.
It hasn't launched to diabolical reviews. Actually, it has had a lot of positive reviews from non-Christians and Christians alike, from vegans and non-vegans alike. Just like the other documentaries that these guys make, Cowspiracy, Seaspiracy, they get criticized, obviously, but they have very, very good reviews. So we're already off to a bad start. This is the second reason it's a bad start, but this is Piers Morgan. What do you expect?
Claims to be an exclusive story about Jesus Christ that's never been told before. I would dare to suggest there's a reason for that. Well, Kip and Cameron join me now. Gentlemen, thank you for joining Uncensored. Is this all a bit of a joke, this one? Is this like literally you're laughing at people?
What a question. Is this a joke? Two serious documentary filmmakers, you think they would put their reputations on the line to put out a joke? You think they're making fun? You think they're just having fun, messing around? Come on, guys.
No, definitely not a joke. That's for sure.
But your pretext is that Jesus was a vegetarian and might have been crucified because of his vegetarianism. I mean, on what possible planet do you base that on?
So, to be clear, guys, and they're going to explain it here, never did they say Jesus was a vegetarian, and never did they say that he was crucified for being a vegetarian. Those words have never left either of these two guys' mouths, ever, because that is not what the documentary claims, that is not what they believe. But anyway, I'll let them answer.
The film doesn't say that he was crucified to be in vegetarianism, but there is a massive thing in the film that happened 4 days before he got crucified, which was a cleansing of the temple that's historically documented. And the film explores what happened at that and what were the intentions of not only Jesus, but the Nazarene movement at that time, and giving it complete context. It's been mistranslated, and it's a powerful, powerful reveal that will really transform Christianity. And people everyone from scholars, theologians, archaeologists, early Christian historians who know about this, who have seen this and explored this with an open mind, they say this is massively, massively groundbreaking, and it's going to really be a new chapter for Christianity.
Okay, here's what I don't...
So let's pause for a second and realize what happened here. So Piers accused them of saying Jesus was a vegetarian, and the reason Jesus was crucified was because he was vegetarian. Kip responded and said, no, that's not what we said. Here's what we said. We said there has been mistranslations. We have worked with theologians, that's experts on theology, experts on the Bible. We have worked with experts translators, and they have all come together, these people we've worked with, and they've said, there's something interesting here. This needs to be discussed more. We need to look into this. And this is, this is real. This is something interesting, something that we need to talk about, okay? So they have explained what he got wrong, and they've told him, the experts, and what they've said. Now we'll see how Piers responds.
Okay, I've done a bit of research myself with my...
I've done a bit of research myself. Piers has done 5 minutes of research compared to these guys doing, I believe it was 7 years of working with experts in the field. Piers does 5 minutes of research and thinks he's got them. Watch this.
Team. This is, you may call it biblical scholarship, I guess. Luke 24, 41 to 43. Jesus ate fish. Jesus also served fish to his followers. Matthew 14, and he caused the fishermen's nets to be filled on 2 different occasions, Luke 5 and John 21. The purpose of catching the fish was to sell them so they could be eaten. Jesus also cooked fish for his disciples, John 21, 9. So he clearly ate a lot of fish.
Yeah, well, Piers, let me say I'm a Christian myself. I was baptized in the church, and I've learned and read those stories my whole life. In fact, it led me to be a fisherman myself for many, many years, hunter, all the things. I'm the least likely person to go on this journey and start to ask some of these questions. But what I will say is when you look deep enough into some of those stories, which we do in this film, and I highly encourage you to see it, these fish stories start to become quite a bit fishy and certainly raise a lot of questions, namely that the word translated as fish is 3 different Greek words, 2 of which just simply mean to relish something just eaten on bread. And in Jesus' own retelling of the feeding of the 5,000 with the fish, he himself in Matthew 16 verse 9 says, "Don't you remember when I multiplied the loaves?" and doesn't mention the fish at all. And that's Jesus' own words. Multiple times throughout the scripture, the same thing occurs, as well as the first early church fathers who had the original documents in front of them. They don't mention the fish in these stories. So at minimum, we're not saying anything. We're just asking questions. Why is there this discrepancy?
So now again, very well explained that there's a lot of discrepancies, there's a lot of mistranslations. Jesus himself said he was feeding people with loaves, didn't say anything about fish, and there are multiple examples of where people get these translations wrong, they've been translated multiple times, etc., etc. So they say, watch the film, because we explain all this in the film, and that's how you can get the answers to your questions, Piers. We'll give you a little bit here, and then you got to go look it up yourself. We're not actually making any claims, and we don't make any claims in the film. Actually, it's the people we interview that make more claims, because they do, by the way. The people they interview in the film, the theologians, the actual people who have experience in this, and you know, experts, they're the ones who make a few claims. Kip and Cam don't make any formal claims. They're just discussing it. They're asking questions. They're putting it out there. They're going on Piers Morgan and having a chat. Now watch what Piers does again. It's like he doesn't listen. It's like he can't process it.
You are saying he was a vegetarian, but you've got no actual evidence that he didn't eat fish, have you?
You hear that? You are saying you are saying he was a vegetarian, but you have no evidence. They have both literally said, we are not saying Jesus was a vegetarian. We are not saying that. Piers goes, well, you are saying that. It's like, no. They are not saying that. They don't say it in the documentary either. They don't claim he's a vegetarian. There are a couple people who hint at it, but these people are theologians. These people are experts. If Piers has a problem with the claim that's being made, he needs to bring on the people who made it. These two didn't make it. They held microphones up in front of people and interviewed them, and they gave their opinions. So it's you know what I mean? They have never said Jesus was a vegetarian, and they're not saying it now. They're even saying we are not saying that, but Piers will not let it go. Do you know why? Because look at the title of the video. Piers Morgan blasts vegan filmmakers who claim Jesus was vegetarian. For Piers' video to work, for his whole nonsense shtick to work, he has to keep pushing that point, even though they've said they never said that. He has to stick to the script because that's what he's decided on. Terrible journalism.
In fact, all the evidence in the Bible points to the opposite.
Well, even, Piers, before even going into that, that's only really scratching the surface of what this film actually is, as Kip was saying. This film has a deeply historical context. What we go into is that the original domestication...
It doesn't have any historical context if it's a load of old baloney, does it? I mean...
Interrupting them while he's trying to explain the historical context of the film they've made. Because they don't only talk about what Jesus himself was eating. They talk about other situations that happened in the same time, the people Jesus was working with, the historians who existed at the time and what they said about Jesus. There's a lot to discuss here about the history, about the actual factual history of Jesus's time. But Piers won't let them talk about it. As you see, he just interrupts them and says it's nonsense.
You go on to talk about meat, for example.
Oh, no.
I mean, Jesus attended Passover in John 2:13, John 5:1, and Matthew 26:17-30. Jesus would have been in disobedience of the law if he'd not eaten the Passover meal, which included meat. So the truth is, he not only ate fish,
Piers,
he ate meat.
Yeah, Piers, I've read the Bible front to back myself. I've obsessed over this for the last 10 years, and my entire life was based on Scripture. And I wear WWJD on my wrist. I ask, what would Jesus do about every moral and ethical dilemma? And this was just a carry on from my natural inclination in my life to understand what Jesus would do about certain scenarios and certain situations. And what I can say is that the Passover meal, if you read in the Scripture, it says nothing about him eating a lamb. It's not mentioned in the Scripture. And in fact, what it does say is that he went to join everyone for his Last Supper. And Piers, what was served at the Last Supper? Do you remember?
Well, why don't you tell me what you think was served? Veggie burgers?
Well, it says in the Scripture, bread in the juice of grapes, bread. And so that was in its own way a very interesting telling. Again, it raises a lot of questions. Why is the Passover originally called the Feast of Unleavened Bread?
Well, you think Jesus only lived off bread?
Well, Jesus said man does not live on bread alone.
So he clearly didn't. He lived off bread, fish, meat, vegetables, fruit, like everybody else. There's absolutely zero evidence that you produce, which has been historically proven to be correct, that he was anything but a fish and meat loving normal eater.
You know what's really funny about this is how Piers is describing as like, oh, he was just a normal guy. He was just a normal guy, you know, like me, who eats fish and cheese and meat, and Jesus is just like me, and definitely could not possibly ever have been somebody who avoided animal products. No. Jesus, apparently one of the most compassionate, if not the most compassionate people to have ever lived, according to Christians. The absolute goal of how to be Christ-like, be like Christ, right? That is the ultimate goal. Is it unthinkable to think that maybe, just maybe, that he avoided killing animals? Like he avoided stabbing animals and eating their bodies? No. They can't do that because, you know, I'm Piers Morgan, and if I eat meat and I eat all of the animals, then surely Jesus must also have done it. It's almost kind of blasphemy in a way to suggest that Jesus would be anything like Piers bloody Morgan, right? He's trying to draw a comparison between himself and what he likes to do and Jesus, and try to paint Jesus as this somebody who's like him versus the other way around. See, what Kip and Cam are doing, the directors of this movie, what they're doing is they're doing the actual work to find out, okay, what is the truth about Jesus? Like, okay, speak to these historians, look at the old textures, look at the old scriptures. Let's dig deep. Let's go 2,000 years back. Let's try and find out the truth about who this person really was and what it really meant to be Jesus. Like, what does it really mean to be Christ-like? Piers is like, well, I'm pretty sure he was just a normal chap, just knocking around, you know, just killing animals and eating them like me. Yeah, sure, mate. I think, look, Piers could have come along here and actually just been open-minded and said, you know what? We don't truly know what Jesus was up to, do we? We don't really know. What did you guys find out? Because I'm interested. I'm a Christian. I'm interested. What did you find out? Let me know. Oh, that's interesting. Do you have evidence for that? Oh, you do? Well, you spoke to scholars and stuff. Oh, interest. Really? I'll watch the movie and I'll do my research. But no, he comes up here with this massive ego. Can't handle the idea, the possibility that Jesus cared about animals. Is it really hard to believe, guys, that Jesus may have cared about animals? Is that such a difficult thing to imagine? You see the you see the painting of Jesus with the lamb, right? Is it so hard to imagine that he, instead of stabbing that animal in the throat, that he actually cared for the lamb? Is that hard to imagine? Or do you imagine Jesus stroking the lamb and then choking the lamb, you know, and then stabbing them and cutting their head off? Which one do you more think of when you think of Jesus with a lamb? For me, if he's the most compassionate man to ever live, I imagine him actually caring for a lamb, not choking the lamb out, a baby sheep, choking them out and stabbing them and cutting their head off. But, you know, that's just me, guys. You guys want
him because of your history. You guys want him to be a vegetarian so badly. You're now prepared to twist the actual Bible to do that.
Piers, let me actually correct that. That's not true. My entire life was based again on not only scripture, and I was a gospel musician, but also I was a deeply meat eater. I worked at a barbecue restaurant in my teens. I was a hunter and a fisherman. I'm the least likely person to get on this road. And in fact, the more I read the scripture, the more I didn't want to believe it. Much like you, there were many times that I became very, very uncomfortable with this conversation and questioned it deeply. But it became so overwhelming, the evidence that we have, not only in the scripture themselves, when you get to the original Hebrew translations, in the Greek translations, which is what we go into the film, in this film, we talk about how the literal words of Jesus, when he said den of thieves, when he went into the temple, which at the time was a massive slaughterhouse for animal sacrifice, he said something else about what was going on there than the den of thieves, something much more condemning, which we reveal in the film, and I highly recommend that you see it. It's completely transformed my perspective, and overall, I'll tell you this, that it's so undeniable when you see the scriptural evidence along with the historical
it's really not.
Evidence.
I found it very easy to deny. I think the people in
He's such an idiot, man. So here's Cam explaining how I was a hunter. I lived my life by the Bible. I was a fisherman. I was into that life. And I dug deep into this and I realized that I ate meat. I didn't want to stop eating meat. I didn't want to stop hunting. But then I realized that that's what Jesus would have wanted. And I got this through my own path, and then I did more research, and we spoke to scholars. We got the old passages, we got old text translated and scriptures, and we worked with experts, and it took years and years and years, and we came to this conclusion. And you know, the evidence is really there. Piers goes, "No, it's not. I disagree." It's like, man, you've spent 5 minutes thinking about this. These guys have been working on it. I think it was 7 years, maybe longer, maybe less, but at least some years. They've literally interviewed people who devote their entire lives to learning about who Jesus was and what he did and why he did it. Okay? The people they interview, they're not all vegans, right? Actually, some of the people they interview, they say it's most likely that Jesus was eating plants only, but they themselves don't eat plants only, and they're Christians, and they admit they're hypocrites. In the movie, this happens, okay? So it's not like it's just all the vegans coming together and just talking about Jesus. No, they're talking to people who eat meat, who also have done the studies, who have spent their entire lives researching Jesus, who say it is very, very unlikely that Jesus was consuming animals. Okay, so these are people who, they've got no skin in the game, and through their own research, these are some of them are lecturers in universities, some of them are theologians, professors. You got to watch the movie Christspiracy and see these people talking for yourself. But no, all these people are wrong because Piers Morgan says so, right? Piers Morgan knows more than people who've devoted their entire lives to researching Jesus and to researching this specific topic. But now Piers is going to tell us why Kip and Cam, Christspiracy, all the people they interviewed, now he's going to tell us why they're all wrong. Let's see.
Evidence along with
No,
the
it's
historical
really not.
evidence.
I found it
that,
very
to me
easy
personally,
to deny. I think the people in denial, with respect.
Did you see the film?
Yeah.
Did you see the film?
He didn't
Of
see
course.
the film.
The people in
Yes, of course. He did not see the film. But anyway, let's continue.
denial are you two, aren't you?
The people in denial are you two. You hear that? The reason that the evidence isn't valid is because these two guys are in denial. But Piers saw the film, and he saw all of these people who have spent their lives, dedicated their lives to doing this research. But Kip and Cam are the ones who are wrong, and all those people are wrong, and Piers is right. Everyone's in denial, just not Piers, right? Piers is not in denial, just everybody else is in denial. You see the problem here? See, what's happening here is Piers is out of his depth. He does not know what he's talking about. He has not done the research here because it requires years of research. But here's the beauty. Kip and Cam, the guys who made the documentary, they have worked with the people who did the research, and they have made a documentary so that we can all watch it and we can have some of that research right there served up on a plate, nice and easy, right? And then we can go and do our own research off the back of that. Piers hasn't watched the movie and he hasn't done years of research, but yet here he is telling these two they're wrong. Now, if you agree with vegans or not, guys, you can hate vegans all you want. You've got to come together with me here and admit and join me in saying that Piers is an idiot here. Not always an idiot, by the way. I've seen Piers Morgan do a great job in different interviews, but here he's being a total numpty, is he not? Meat eaters, vegans, can we all agree that this is ridiculous, the way he's treating these guys? The way he thinks he knows better than these people who've been spending years making all of this, doing all this research? It's very silly.
I mean, you're the ones in denial. You want this to suit your narrative that we should all be vegans and vegetarians, and yet by trying to pull Jesus Christ into this and twisting the actual words of Scripture from the Bible, I think you're doing yourselves a disservice.
Where have we twisted the words of Scripture? Can you provide an
I've
example?
literally read passages where it's quite clear he ate fish and meat.
That's so funny. So I got a Bible and I read the translations into English of the Bible. So your years of research are all wrong. They literally explained to you about, 10 minutes ago, that there are mistranslations. That it's been translated, I believe they said it was from Hebrew to Greek and Greek to English, or Greek to Hebrew, Hebrew to... I don't know what they said. You can go back and watch it again. But there are mistranslations. They have worked with professional translators who devote their lives to translating the Bible from its original format into English and modern language. And they worked with them. They went to see them in the documentary, and they established together with these people that there were mistranslations of these words, that fish was translated incorrectly, that meat has a different meaning. There was multiple translations that were messed up and turned into English in the wrong way. They already explained that, But then Piers is saying, well, I read the Bible and it says that he was eating fish, so your entire documentary is wrong. Man, I can't take it. I can't take it. It's just too much, guys. But by the way, don't go anywhere because it gets so much worse. It gets so much worse, okay? He doesn't... The Bible, this is discussing the Bible, discussing Jesus. This is bad enough. Wait until he moves on later on, and what he says to them is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, no, so you mentioned Luke, right? Well, how come in multiple translations of that Luke verse that you mentioned, it says he ate honeycomb and fish? The honeycomb is omitted multiple times throughout all there's so many translations where that's omitted. Why is that omitted? Also, the early church fathers that quote that verse, they don't mention the fish. There's many of the early church fathers that don't mention that he had fish. And in fact, that word that's used for fish there,
give me one piece of evidence that he was.
again,
Give me one piece of it. You say it's an historically important film.
Right. So you see now, Cam's making sense. You see how Cameron was making sense? He's explaining that, listen, there are passages that are translated in multiple ways, and some of them don't even mention parts that other bits mention. So you see there are mistakes, and he's explaining it. Piers cuts him off, interrupts him, and says, give me one piece of evidence. What he's going to say is, give me one piece of evidence that Jesus was a vegetarian. Now, this will be the third or fourth time that Piers Morgan has tried to say that they're saying that Jesus was a vegetarian. And it'll be the third or fourth time that they have to say, we have never made that claim. We are not saying that we know he was a vegetarian. We are saying that there are questions around the way he lived, the opinions he had, and the way he treated animals. These are questions that we have researched, and there are people out there who've devoted their entire lives to these questions that we have interviewed in our documentary, Christspiracy. They've explained this 3 times now, but watch Piers now still ask them for evidence that Jesus was a vegetarian, even after they've already explained that like 3 times at this point.
One piece of evidence that he was. Give me one piece of it. You say it's an historically important film. Give me one piece of evidence that proves that Jesus was a vegetarian.
It's like, I don't even know how to describe this. It's almost as though it's one of 2 things. It's like it's either Piers Morgan simply doesn't have the intellect to keep up with this conversation and actually understand what they're saying, or Piers Morgan decided before this interview that he had an agenda, that he was going to make them say Jesus was a vegetarian, and no matter what they said, he's going to pretend they said that because he wants the clicks, right? I think it's probably a blend of the two. I don't know, because I've seen Piers Morgan actually be intelligent before. I've seen him do intelligent debates and intelligent conversations and interviews. And then, so when I see this, I'm thinking, how is it that he can be this way in one interview and really hard-hitting journalism, very interesting stuff, asking great questions and tough questions, but yet here, he just falls apart and he can't entertain a normal conversation with 2 people who made a movie, who have been researching something for years. He can't be humble enough to actually just ask good questions that are interesting without attacking them and trying to make it as though they said things that they didn't say. It truly is phenomenal. This is what happens to people, guys. By the way, I see around 40% of you are not vegan. So you guys are eating meat, you guys are eating animal products, right? This is the kind of thing vegans have to deal with all the time. We can't have a normal discussion with people about things that are related to animals because people feel defensive and they get upset. They start to get negative and they start to feel like they're being attacked, right? That's probably another reason why Piers refuses to take them seriously. Because he can't, if he takes them seriously, he has to acknowledge that the vegans in this case have a point and they might be right about something. And if he does that, well then he can't do it. His ego can't handle it. And this is a real problem. Guys, I mean, we need to be able to talk to each other without getting like this, without going all Piers on each other. It's really, really sad, really like next level pathetic.
Well, again, we're not here to prove that Jesus is a vegetarian. We're here to raise really important questions that haven't.
You see that? We're not here to prove Jesus was a vegetarian. That's the 4th or 5th time they've had to say that. And now watch what Piers is saying. Give me a fact. Give me, go on.
Well, again, we're not here to prove that Jesus is a vegetarian. We're here to raise really important questions that haven't.
That suggests give me one fact that establishes he was a vegetarian.
Well, here, they said that again. We are not saying that. And he goes, give me it's I don't know what you're supposed to do in this situation. It's like you're talking to somebody who doesn't have the intellect to be able to keep up. And then in that situation, you either stop the interview and say, I don't know, clearly, Piers, you don't understand words, you don't understand English, right? Because we've told you 5 times now, we are not claiming Jesus was a vegetarian. 5 times now we've told you, 5 times you've carried on asking us to prove something that we've never claimed. Where do you draw the line? I mean, I think that would have been good for them to draw the line here and say, we are not going to defend something that we haven't, we're not going to defend the claim we never made, Piers. So stop asking that question because we're not saying that. I think as it happens, they actually start to talk about something else now, but Piers just carries on shouting at them.
Yeah, here's something that suggests something worth considering, which is that Jesus is...
Okay, here's something that's worth considering. Very interesting words that Cam chose there. So again, they're not claiming Jesus was a vegetarian. They never claimed that. But they are going to suggest something interesting, one of the things they learned in the documentary.
Yeah, here's something that suggests something worth considering, which is that Jesus' own brother, James the Just, that everyone knows, in multiple historical documents, in the first paragraph that describes him, it describes that he never ate flesh. From the time of his birth, he never ate flesh.
So
this
his
is Jesus' own brother. So
sorry, so just to be clear, his brother was a vegetarian, you're saying, so that means Jesus was.
Who took on...
No one said that. Again, you hear? You're saying his brother was a vegetarian, so Jesus was. No. They didn't say that. They're explaining that it's interesting to know that the people around Jesus, one of them, his brother, who was very close to him, was a vegetarian. And that was well established. Doesn't mean Jesus was, but it's interesting to know that the people around him were, isn't it? That's an interesting fact, is it not? And it is a fact, okay? So
movement after Jesus got crucified, who carried on the same movement that Jesus was part of. He carried it on.
Right, but if I said, if you guys did a movie and the pretext was I'm a murderer, and when I got you on to talk about where's your evidence, and you went, well, your brother murdered someone, that's not great evidence.
that is hilarious. So let me explain the difference between Piers' stupid hypothetical and what they're saying, right? So Piers is saying, well, you're saying that Jesus might have been a vegetarian because his brother was. That's like saying, if my brother was a murderer, I might be. Well, okay. If you and your brother were in some kind of movement together where you actually had some kind of ethical or spiritual movement that you were very closely intertwined with, that was almost maybe even going to cost you your lives because you were going against the mainstream, fighting together, you were close, you were bonded, you were tight, you were brothers, you believe in the same stuff and you believe in the same cause and everybody knows it, right? And then it turned out your brother was a murderer. Yes, people would look at you and ask if you were also a murderer in that scenario, right? The same as here. Jesus and Jesus' brother were close, had the same beliefs, part of the same movement, part of the same spiritual movement, okay? So if his brother was a vegetarian, then you should ask, well, okay, that's interesting. They were part of the same movement. They were very close. They were bonded. They believed in all the same things. Maybe he was also a vegetarian. It's a question you bring up, okay? So in that analogy, yes, we would ask if Piers was a murderer if all those boxes were ticked. Do you see what I mean? Terrible attempt by Piers Morgan of trying to catch them out or something. So silly.
Well, it's not just James either. The forerunner of the movement, John the Baptist, was known in multiple historical sources to eat only plant-based foods.
What's that got to do with Jesus? You're just naming other people.
What's that got to do with Jesus? You're just naming other people. They already explained they were part of the same movement. The same movement. Spiritual movement, ethical movement, religious movement, whatever you want to call it. When people who are bonded together in groups that believe in a cause, then one of them does this and has the spiritual belief or the ethical belief that they should be vegetarian and not kill animals, then you do have the right to start to ask questions about the others involved in that movement. And if that included Jesus, you could start to ask questions about Jesus. If John the Baptist, if it turned out that he was some kind of ruthless animal killer who just loved going out and killing animals, and then you'd ask, okay, was that what they were all into? It's a question you ask because their behaviors are interesting and you wonder if the others shared the same behaviors. This is not a crazy thing to ask. It's not a crazy thing to think about. It's hilarious to think it is.
Well, because Jesus carried on the movement of John the Baptist. John the Baptist was out in the wilderness giving a replacement.
Where is a single quote from Jesus
through ritual
that
cleansing
suggests he was a practicing vegetarian? You don't have.
That's the 6th time now. They are not claiming Jesus was a vegetarian. They have never said he was a vegetarian. They've never said they have evidence he was a vegetarian. They've never said that Jesus said he was a vegetarian. They have said that the people of that time, historians, people Jesus was connected with, have reported, and there are scriptures that suggest that the way Jesus looked at animals was not what the Bible suggests. As in, Jesus' own words and the words of people who are close to him contradict and conflict with things that are in the Bible. And there are mistranslations, and there are different scriptures that have been mistranslated that show and suggest that maybe Jesus viewed animals in a different way to what we all think, to the way we all think he did. This is all they're saying. This is it. It's not that controversial at all, but it's something that has been hidden and something that has been suppressed for many years. That's why they're bringing it to the surface. For the 6th or 7th time, I've had to explain that because he's being an idiot and won't digest it. It's wild.
I have one. The whole movie is based on a completely spurious pretext for which you have zero evidence. You've done it to make money and to capitalise on the big Christian market. As a Christian myself, I find that quite offensive.
Okay, so those who are just joining, so these two guys here have made a movie called Christspiracy, and the point of this movie is to look into the ethics of animals and how we treat animals. So they look into the multiple different religions and how they treat animals, and they do a special deep dive into Jesus and how Jesus looked at animals and treated animals. They found some very interesting stuff. They interviewed some very interesting people who have been spending their whole lives on this: professors, lecturers, theologians, people who are experts on the Bible, experts on Christianity and religion, expert translators, Hebrew translators, and they found out some very interesting stuff that has been buried deep and no one has really been talking about, and they brought it to light. Jesus, actually, it's suggested that the way that he saw animals, that people think about him, that's not true. He saw animals in a different way, and actually, it looks like he had empathy for animals. It looks like he actually cared about animals, and even, it looks like he went as far as to try and protect animals from people who wanted to kill them, which is very interesting and says something about the way we should view animals, especially Christians, right? So, that's what's happened. That's what they're about. That's why they're here talking about this documentary with Piers Morgan. Yes, they are both vegans. I am also a vegan. I've been vegan for about 14 years myself. These guys, I believe Kip's been vegan a lot longer. I think Cam's been vegan for maybe, I think it was 5 or 6 years. So yeah, that's the background, guys. Piers Morgan doesn't know what he's talking about. Can't even listen to them. Can't even talk to them about the documentary without getting silly, which is what's been happening for the last 11 minutes or so of this bloody video.
You need to watch the film first off, and you'll see there's overwhelming evidence in there proving not just vegetarian of what he was about and the movement was about.
I just asked you to give me one piece
of...
I just asked you to give me one bit of evidence which proves he was a vegetarian. You couldn't give me one.
And that's the 7th time, if I'm counting correctly, the 7th time he's asked them to provide evidence for something that they've never said. I'll say it again. They've never said that Jesus was a vegetarian. They've never said it. No one's saying it. It's not been said. But yet they're being asked to provide evidence yet again.
Well, I'll say this. In the movie, we bring up the Gospel of the Ebionites, which scholars, there's a consensus that this was an original document, the original Hebrew document of the Gospel of Matthew that the Ebionite tribe used, the Ebionite movement. And these are the people that followed James the Just, Jesus' brother. And they have an original statement from Jesus that says, I do not want to eat this Passover lamb with you. This is a document that we don't have anymore. Again, your Piers Uncensored. I would suggest, and many scholars suggest, that this document was censored a long time ago, 2,000 years ago.
Conspiracy.
So we've lost this.
So there's been a global, historical 2,000-year conspiracy to prevent your version of events being proven. It's terrible.
Well, it's not our version, Piers. I would say it's Christ's own words. He said, "I desire mercy, not sacrifice," in Matthew when he's quoting Hosea 6:6, and he says, "Go and learn what this means." And I encourage every Christian to really take the time and go and learn what this means.
Okay, let me ask you.
I'm asking the same questions as you.
Okay, I mean, I suppose the obvious question is why does it matter anyway, right? Putting aside whether it is true or not, why does it matter?
See, now, after 12 minutes, we get to a more interesting question, don't we? Why does it matter then? That's a great question. What's the point of it? What's the relevance of this documentary? Why does it matter what Jesus did and how he treated animals and stuff? Interesting. Good. Jeez, man. Can't believe it took him that long to ask a decent question. Let's have a little look to the chat then. I see you guys being silly billies. Someone's saying, why watch the movie? Why watch the movie? Why do you watch any movie, you numpty? Why watch the movie? He also called me a name. I'm not going to say that out loud, but yeah. Why do you watch any documentary or any movie? Because you're interested, aren't you? You're interested. You don't want to know what they found out. Do you not want to know the intricacies, the details they found out, the things that expose the whole Christian church, the church? You want to know about how they were hiding this and the mistranslations? Or if you don't want to know all of that, don't watch the bloody movie. But if you do, I mean, if you're somebody who's got any kind of, interest, someone who's interested in knowing the truth, someone who's smart enough to understand this kind of movie as well, because it's a simple movie, but I know there's some silly billies out there on the internet, then I'd recommend you check the movie out. It's called Christspiracy, guys. It's not out for streaming yet, but you can go and check the website out, and you can follow them on social media and get ready for when it is out, What else we got in the chat? You guys are going off in the chat. You guys are proper fighting with each other. David Rams also calls people names. Yeah, I'll call you a name, you little numpty. He's going to start talking about the bees soon, isn't he? He says priority 76. Yes, he is. Oh, he is. He's going to talk about bees soon. Can you believe it? Can you believe it, guys? Yeah, we're going to get onto that. Don't you worry. I love it. Look at this guy, guys. Look at this guy in the chat, this motive. I love it. I always love it when people get angry in YouTube live chats, because this is just some little, either a child sat at home on his mum's laptop or an adult who hides away from the world and just chats crap to people online, who would absolutely brick themselves if they ever came up against anyone they'd said things about in real life. Come on, Motive. Just grow up a little bit, bro. You don't need to be so angry all the time. We're a welcoming place. I don't even want you to go anywhere, dude. You stay right here. Just be nice, man. There's no need to be like that. You can just breathe, and just, deal with whatever you've got going on and have a normal conversation. You know what I'm saying? Daniel says, we want movies to learn. Piers can't learn yet. No, Piers, whenever Piers comes up against anything to do with veganism or animal rights, he just loses his bloody mind. Just absolutely loses his mind. Hey, James Aspie, you're mad too, are you? James, chill out, man. Chill out. It's all good. It's all good, man. We're all chill here. See, James, I don't need to smoke to get chill. You know what I mean? I'm already relatively chill. But maybe I'll get going later on. Maybe then I would need you here, actually, James, then to ply me with some of that stuff. All right, let's jump back into this then. So let's see, what did he actually say again? What was it that Piers said, the last thing he said?
Right, putting aside...
That was it. He's asking, what's the point? That was it. What's the point of the movie, right? Why does it matter? Let's jump in.
It's true or not. Why does it matter?
Well, I have a question for you, Piers. Do you feel that how would Jesus kill an animal? Do you think Jesus would kill an animal? Because at the time, back in the day, he would be the one who killed it, the animal.
I've no idea.
How would Jesus kill an animal?
I've no idea, but...
So how would Jesus kill an animal? I've no idea, Piers says. But how would Jesus kill an animal, they say? I've no idea, Piers says. Okay, so press him a bit harder, yeah?
Given most human beings...
Just think about it. Visualize how that would happen.
I'm about to ask, if you let me answer the question.
If you let me answer the question. The irony of that. But come on. He will let him answer the question. But the irony of Piers saying, let me answer the question after most of this video with Piers not letting them answer questions. But let's see what Piers is going to say. How would Jesus kill an animal? Maybe you guys can tell me in the chat as well. How would Jesus kill an animal? Guys, in the chat. Put it in the chat. And I want details. I want details of how Jesus would kill an animal.
Let me answer the question. I think given that most human beings of that time probably would have killed animals to eat them.
How? How would Jesus kill an animal?
At some stage. I wouldn't see it as completely fanciful that Jesus may have killed an animal.
But how? What would he do? Can you give us a visual of what Jesus would do?
He would do what everybody else did.
He can't do it. Look at him. He can't answer the question. He'd do what everybody else did. No, he wouldn't. This was Jesus Christ. Jesus was just doing what everybody else was doing, was he? He was just a normal guy. No, he was not a normal guy. If you're a Christian who believes in God, Jesus was God. There are certain versions of Christianity. Some people believe Jesus was God. Some people believe Jesus was the Son of God. And some people believe Jesus was neither a Son of God or a God, but he was the most compassionate man to ever live or whatever. There's many variations what people believe about Jesus, but the thing that stands is that he was not a normal man. He was not like the rest of us. He was enlightened. He was the most compassionate. He was the most... So, again, how would he do it? Let's see if we can get it out of Piers, and let's see if we can get it out of you guys as well.
Time.
Which is what?
Which is
Would Jesus use a knife? Would
Exactly.
he break the
Detail.
possibly,
the neck?
yeah. I
How
don't
would
know. I
Jesus
wasn't there,
actually do
but
it?
it's quite possible. Yeah. Why wouldn't
You
it
can
be?
imagine Jesus, Jesus holding the lamb, the beautiful picture. You can imagine.
Well, let
him
me
all
ask
of
you
sudden
two a
taking
question.
knife.
No, let's not ask you two a question. You see that? So he's asking him, Piers, would he use a knife? Would he have broken their back? Would he have snapped their neck? Come on, Piers, give us detail. Watch what Piers does.
Imagine Jesus holding the lamb, the beautiful picture. You can imagine.
Well, let me
him all
ask
of a
you
sudden
two a
taking
question.
knife,
All right, let me
slitting
ask
it.
you two a question back. Are you both practicing vegans or what?
See that? Now, guys, pay attention. Meat eater or vegan doesn't matter. That was Piers deflecting and avoiding a question he knows he can't answer without looking bad. That is an example of a terrible, slimy interviewer, where he's been putting them on the back foot the whole time. He's been going at them, accusing them of saying things they didn't say, making them feel uncomfortable. The second they turn it around on Piers, and they say, Piers, like, listen, just answer this question, and he can't answer it, he won't answer it. See what he does? Let me ask you a question, and just changes the subject. Pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. This is somebody who has spent his career in journalism, and here he is, falling to pieces, looking so stupid, so silly, won't even answer a basic question, gets caught out, and instead of answering it, spins it off like that and just tries to turn it around on them. So guys, can you do what Piers Morgan can't do in the chat? Can you do it? Can you tell us here, how would Jesus kill an animal in detail? Please put it in the chat right now. I'm going to scroll up and see if any of you actually said something. But so far... See, there's been lots of meat eaters, non-vegans here, but none of you have actually given an answer. How interesting is that? Wow, that's so interesting. I've seen lots of trolls, but the second I asked everybody here to tell me how Jesus killed an animal, like, what did he practically do? Did he use a knife? Did he use a stone? Did he choke them to death? Did he punch them in the face to death? What did he do? No one is answering the question. No one will give me the details. Come on, guys, try and give me the details. I want you to give me an image, give me a visual of what Jesus would do to kill an animal. And remember, the animals don't just go peacefully into the night when you kill them. They scream their lungs out. Chickens, they make this horrible noise. They shout like it's a distress call. It's horrible, harrowing. Goats scream, they sound like humans. Cows, you've heard cows moo, but it's like an extreme moo. It's really loud and it's really high pitched. It's horrible, horrible. This is what they do when they're scared or when they're hurt, right? So you've got to imagine that. So Jesus is there now. These animals screaming in pain, screaming in fear. Jesus is wrestling with them. He's got something in his hand. What does he have in his hand? What's he going to do? A sword or an arrow? Okay then, so Jesus has a sword. He's now grabbed the goat, right? The goat's trying to get away, and you've got Jesus, the most passionate man to ever live, and he's got this sword, and he's just stabbing at them. He's just thrusting the sword into them, is he? That's the image you've got of Jesus in your head? Yeah, sure, mate. What else have we got? So we've got one person saying a sword or an arrow. So we've got one visual of Jesus with either a sword or an arrow, just thrusting it into the neck or the heart of a goat, for example, or a cow, or chopping a chicken's head off, just grabbing them down, they're screaming, and he goes bam like that and chops their head off, and then he rips them apart. Just compassionate, loving Jesus ripping a chicken to pieces, right? A chicken that's screaming. There we go, a knife. There we go, someone says a knife. So again, we've got the same visual, right? All loving, all compassionate Jesus, yeah? And now he's got a chicken or he's got a goat and he's got a knife and he's just bam, 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 just stabbing them. And where does he stab them, guys? Does he stab them around the chest, the throat? What about the face? Does he just go straight for the brain, through the eye socket? Boom, straight through like that. Just violent, aggressive, violent Jesus, while this animal screams and just in fear and terror. of the most compassionate man to ever live? Is this how it is, guys? What else we got, guys? What else we got? So we've got swords, we've got arrows, and we've got knives. They're the three big ones you guys have come along with. What else have we got, guys? How else would he do it? How else would he do it? Is that it? Is that the three that we've got? What about, why would he not do it with a rock? Because, you know, knives and swords and stuff there, you weren't really around so much back then, really. What about rocks? Maybe he just got like a big rock and just smashed a goat in the head, a sheep in the head, just bam, 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 until eventually they died, right? While they're screaming, just hoping that he'll stop, hoping that Jesus will stop beating them to death or stabbing them to death. These poor animals, yeah, I'm sure, yeah. No, that sounds very Christ-like to me, guys. It sounds very Christ-like that people would go out and stab innocent animals to death. I mean, yeah. You know, I would put it on you guys. I would put it on you guys that if you're a Christian and if you're claiming that Jesus would have done that he would have stabbed animals to death or beat animals to death, I would say people accuse vegans of blasphemy. I don't know about you, but I'd say that is more close to what blasphemy would be as opposed to what vegans are saying. See, what vegans are saying is, we're saying we find it hard to believe that Jesus would be such an uncompassionate, evil person to animals. We find that hard to believe. We don't have evidence that he didn't, but we find it very hard to believe that the most compassionate man ever was going around stabbing animals, just violence to animals. We find that hard to believe because that seems off. You guys, on the other hand, the people who believe he was going around committing acts of violence on animals, you're saying that only because you want to eat animals. It's selfish. You are using Jesus and hiding behind Jesus because you like to eat the products that come from abuse to animals. We, on the other hand, vegans and people who have made this decision to no longer fund animal abuse, well, we are saying no. We made a decision to stop consuming all of those things that, hey, didn't stop enjoying them. People still like meat. People still like eggs. They still like cheese. They like the taste of all these things. But they chose to say, you know what? No, I like those things, but I'm not going to do it because I don't think it's fair on animals. That's the position they're in. You're in the position of, it tastes good, I like it, therefore Jesus probably did it. Listen, I'm just saying, listen, if anyone's blaspheming, it's you. Right? People say to the vegans, oh, you vegans, you're going to go to hell. No, I don't think so. I think if anyone, if you believe in hell, I think who's more likely to end up in hell? The people who said, I'm not going to commit acts of violence and I don't think Jesus did, or the people who say, I'm going to commit acts of violence my whole life and I think Jesus was also committing acts of violence. I don't believe in the concept of hell, but if you do, I think you better start thinking about your future because I think one is more likely to go down there than the other, and I don't think it's the vegans, guys, all right? I don't think it's the vegans. Come on, guys, switch your brains on, think about it. Anyway, Piers avoided the question. Back to the topic at hand. Piers avoided the question completely, refused to answer it. You guys had a good try at answering it, but ultimately, you basically tried to make me believe, or tried to make everyone in the chat believe that Jesus was a violent animal killer who would stab animals to death. Don't think so. I don't think anyone's buying that. And I think most Christians who are actually proper Christians would say you're wrong. They would disagree with you as well, actually. So, yeah. Anyway, Piers is going to move away from that topic now because he's a coward and he won't answer it because he knows it'll make him look bad. Now we're going to see what happens next when he decides to go on a random rant about something completely unrelated. And this is where it gets very silly.
What are you?
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Okay. One of the many things.
So you're both.
I am
vegans.
now because of what I learned.
Okay, you're both vegans. Okay, so do you eat avocados or almonds or both?
We're ready for this one.
Yeah.
I was doing a documentary for about a year and a half on glyphosate and in pesticides, specifically glyphosate.
I just asked you a question.
So to do your research, it's like being against strawberries. I'm not against strawberries. I'm against the pesticides.
I'm sure you've done lots of stuff.
I'm against the glyphosate.
It's a very simple question. Do you eat avocados and almonds?
Piers, I actually don't eat avocados. I don't enjoy. I'm sorry, almonds. I don't enjoy almonds. I do enjoy avocados, and in fact, because of the question that you're asking, for many years, I live in California. I handpick my own avocados because of the atrocities that happen to the bees that you're going to mention. But what you got to remember, Piers, is the bees are actually for the honey industry, and they're rented out to the avocado industry.
I know what happens.
Goes to show you that
plant
agriculture isn't perfect.
The reason I ask you
Piers,
is
plant
that
agriculture is not perfect.
Let me explain. The reason I go on about this with vegans is vegans are the most self-righteous people on God's earth.
There's nothing more self-righteous than sitting there and saying animals, like Piers is saying, all these billions of animals, cows, pigs, and chickens, etc., all of them, and the bees, by the way, because Piers is also eating avocados and almonds. So in his own logic, all those animals, Piers is sat there saying they all should be abused, mutilated, and killed because I'm the most important, because what I want is more important than anything else. That's what Piers says. But yet he has the nerve to call vegans self-righteous. He has the nerve to criticize vegans when he is, by his own logic, doing everything that he says vegans are doing, but way more. Because like I said, he also consumes avocados and almonds, but he also consumes every single other animal product on Earth. He has no limits, basically, apart from maybe he doesn't eat dogs, right? So this hypocrisy, we'll come back to it, but it's hilarious that he would try to make this claim. But we'll come back to this, because once he's gone through his whole thing, we'll come back and I'll tell you what I think.
And whenever I ask them, do you eat almonds and avocados, invariably they eat one or the other or both. And they don't like to be confronted with the reality that in the production of their favourite foodstuffs, billions, literally billions of bees, the little guys, get exterminated. Billions.
That's his appeal to emotion that he does. So Piers, when he's making this argument, he tries to make it sound like he actually cares about bees. Piers does not care about bees. He pretends to care about bees because he wants to make vegans look bad when they come on his show and make him look silly. You'll notice what happened. If we rewinded, you'd see the moment that Piers wanted to go down this route of attacking them and trying to make out they're hypocrites was the moment where they asked him a question that he couldn't answer. When they asked him, Piers, how would Jesus kill an animal? He didn't answer, and he immediately went to an attack where he tries to make them look bad, look like bad people, look like hypocrites. That tells you everything you need to know about Piers and how uncomfortable he was about answering that question. Pathetic, and this is by far, by the way, this is one of his worst interviews. And I'm not a hater of Piers. I watch Piers Morgan. I'll admit it, guys. You can hate on me all you want. I know the vegans are going to be upset about this. I'm sorry, vegans, but I watch Piers Morgan. I watch his interviews. I watch the debates he hosts. I watch quite a bit of his videos, quite a bit of his content. I don't dislike the guy completely. And I have to be honest with you, I have done in the past, but I've watched more of his stuff, and I have to say, he does a pretty good job on some pretty heated topics when he brings on opposing people, and they argue with each other. I actually quite enjoy the work he does. I enjoyed a couple of his interviews, some high-profile interviews he's done where he's asked really good questions. So I'm not even a hater of Piers. But then when you watch him here, it's just terrible. It's terrible. This is not a good interview. This is not... Even if you're not a vegan, even if you're a non-vegan, you've got to admit, this is a bad interview. The way he's treating them is bad. The way he's not letting them answer questions. He's interrupting them. He's asking them unrelated questions. He's trying to make out that they're hypocrites and attack them personally, rather than talking about the movie, which is the reason they're here. I mean, what are you doing, man?
Right, and so
Piers,
you are party to mass murder.
Oh my God.
Mass murder. And I just wonder how you feel about that.
Piers, plant agriculture is not perfect, and it's because the agricultural
vegans
system
are perfect,
has been dominated by...
No, vegans have never claimed to be perfect, and he thinks he's got them now. Vegans aren't perfect. I've never met a vegan in my life who says, oh, you go vegan, and then everything's perfect. Vegan solves everything. No one has ever said that, and if they have said that, they're wrong. Guys, non-vegans here. If a vegan ever tells you going vegan is the answer to everything, they're wrong. It is not the answer to everything at all. There are many, many more things that still need to be solved. There are many more problems we need to talk about, even after going vegan. But going vegan is the beginning. It's the bare minimum you can do. It's the start of changing things for the better for animals, and not just for animals. Being a vegan can impact the world in a much better way, right? It can do that. It doesn't necessarily mean it will do that, because being a vegan is being against animal abuse, right? But if you're against animal abuse and you decide to eat plant-based and you decide to try and do better things in general, try and live more consciously and be better for animals, there are knock-on effects of that. First of all, animals benefit from it because you're no longer funding all of the horrible things that happen to them in animal agriculture. But if you also decide to try and eat local, if you also decide to do lots of other little tweaks like that, then you'd be better for lots of reasons, not only for animals. So, being a vegan is the beginning. It's the beginning of opening up to the saying, okay, what else can we do? How else can we be better, right? But as a bare minimum, if you care about animals, if you're against animal cruelty and animal violence, the bare minimum you can do is not pay people to stab animals, gas animals to death, drop them in electrified water and slash their throats, which is how pigs, cows, and chickens are killed. Come on, guys. So yeah, no one's claiming it's perfect, though. It's the beginning.
Veganism isn't perfect.
It's been dominated by...
Yeah, but you see, this is the trouble. You make a whole movie trying to prove something you can't prove about Jesus being a vegetarian.
Piers,
and yet here I have you,
Piers, you're doing
whataboutism.
You're doing a whataboutism.
Cornered as mass murderers.
See that? You're doing a whataboutism, and that's exactly what Piers has done. He's not liked what they said about Jesus in the documentary, so then he goes on a whataboutism. He brings up another topic to try and twist things and get things moved away because he's not comfortable with how things were before.
There's the real movie.
Hey, Piers.
There's the real movie, he says. Oh, he's such an idiot.
Piers, there's an ethical way to eat an avocado. There's a way to do it right.
No, but,
and it's hard to do it right.
How many bees have died?
Because there's only 0.04...
How many bees have died to sate your
goes
hunger?
To plant agriculture.
Yeah.
64% of the public funding goes to animal agriculture. We don't have the money to do the innovation to properly raise avocados. But guess what? You can't ethically, Piers, is there any ethical way to kill 90 billion animals per year to eat them? There is an ethical way to eat an avocado. Is there an ethical way to kill 90 billion?
Why don't you stop feeding?
See that? Not answering the question again. That's the second question that Piers would struggle to answer, that he refuses to answer and instead just deflects onto something else. Again, guys, vegan or not, you've got to admit he's deflecting again. Every time a tough question comes up, he ignores it and moves on because he can't answer it. It's weak and cowardly.
The mass murder of bees culture. That's all I'm asking you.
That's what it is.
Ask the honey industry.
I tell you who would have looked after. I tell you who would have looked after the little guys. I tell you who looked after the little guys. Jesus. He would have looked after the little guys.
Absolutely. Now he's being, I don't know what the word is here, but he's basically being sarcastic. I'm not sure if facetious is the correct word. Where basically he's pretending to be serious, but ultimately he's mocking them at this point. He's mocking them. He's making a joke here. He's trying to make fools of them. Truly pathetic from Piers here, acting like he actually cares about any of this. And let me tell you, so now he's moved on, I suppose, a little bit from. I know he's not. There's one more bit about the bees, and once he's finished, I'll tell you what I'm going to say about that.
Absolutely, he
absolutely. He'd be against glyphosate and pesticides.
And he looks after the little lamb that you say he'll slit his throat and kill.
You should invoke the Spirit of Jesus Christ and stop eating avocados and almonds, and you should stop encouraging the mass extermination of the little guys.
We do.
Do you agree?
We do, and we would love to see that.
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. Absolutely.
Hang on,
the little guys and the big guys, all of them.
This is a big moment. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I've got you to admit you've been committing mass murder, and you're going to stop.
No.
We haven't. That's not what we're saying, Piers. We're saying that there's unnecessary killing that's happening in all stages of agriculture.
So you can eat avocados is necessary.
The majority of it is 90 billion. No, Piers, there is an ethical way to eat an avocado without killing any bees. Bees die when they sting you, Piers. The point is there's no ethical way around killing an animal to eat it. The animal has to die, and it has to go through suffering. 99% of all animals are factory farmed, Piers. How much meat do you eat, Piers? I mean,
you know what, guys?
Do you eat factory farmed meat?
Third question he won't answer. How much meat do you eat, Piers? Do you support factory farms? Third question Piers is not going to answer, and he's just going to shout now. Watch.
Piers, guys. As a Christian, wait a minute. As a Christian, I forgive you both.
You see, third question. Piers has been asked only 3 difficult questions in this interview, and he's not answered one of them. Pathetic. They've tried to do their best. Kip and Cam, to answer as many questions as they could, even when Piers has been asking them questions about things they never said. They've done their best to be respectful, but, you know, Piers won't give them that same respect back.
Well, Piers, you're a very, very sweet guy, and I actually honor that, and I think you're an awesome person. I know you love your cats, and I think that it's in your heart. I know you're against factory farming, yet you still eat factory farmed animals. Why do you do that?
I like meat, what can I tell you? And I'm not a hypocrite. I'm not a sanctimonious hypocrite. I'm not a sanctimonious hypocrite who preaches to people that you've got to leave animals alone, but quietly actively participates in the mass slaughter of bees.
So was Jesus Christ, as a Christian, was Jesus a sanctimonious hypocrite when he went into the temples and disrupted the entire animal sacrifice system because they were murdering animals in the temple?
Absolutely not, because he wasn't preaching like you two do about being a vegetarian, because he wasn't a vegetarian.
So wait, Jesus wasn't preaching compassion. This is what Piers has just said. Jesus wasn't out preaching compassion to people. He wasn't preaching and teaching lessons to people. So when Jesus went in and sacked the temple and tried to stop the animal sacrifice there, he wasn't a hypocrite because Jesus didn't preach. He didn't try and teach people lessons. He wasn't trying to, inspire people to be different or anything like that, was he? Piers, complete and utter moron, not a Christian, clearly, because no Christian would ever say that Jesus wasn't trying to teach. Jesus was obviously trying to teach, and he was trying to lead people down a better path. And then when he went and did sack that temple, when he did flip all of those tables over and try and stop people from killing animals, he was doing it as part of what he was teaching people. It was about the lessons he was teaching people. Of course. So by Piers' logic, he would also be a sanctimonious hypocrite.
So unfortunately, your attempt
Piers,
to bring him into your own sanctity and hypocrisy doesn't work.
Piers, this film goes so much deeper than that. You're only scratching the surface.
Guys,
right, listen. So first off, let's now get back to this whole bees thing. By the way, I see a couple of people in the comments. So I'm going to just say to two or three people have been very silly and keep saying, David's not making sense. David doesn't know what he's talking about. David didn't answer my question. You have now the opportunity, you numpties, to put your actual questions in. What am I not making sense on? What did I miss? What have I avoided answering? Now put them in the chat. Go for it. Put it in the chat. Prove me wrong. You won't be able to prove me wrong because you're just saying silly things. But, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to turn the chat, trying to turn the non-vegans against me. Now, you've got to put in the chat. Now, here's your opportunity, guys. Big chance for you guys. Put it in the chat. Tell me exactly what I didn't answer and what you'd like me to answer. Put my name in so it pops up, and I'll come back and I'll answer it. I know I'm going to get nothing because you don't have anything. You don't have anything to say. You're just being very silly. So do that. And I see we got a new member as well. Stacy, welcome. Stacy, welcome to the team. Legend. All right, let's talk about, while I'm waiting for these people to actually say something of substance in the chat, which they won't, I will explain the whole avocados, almonds thing. So the thing is, right, this avocados, almonds thing that Piers has brought up, let's pretend I agree with Piers, right? Let's assume Piers is right. Piers is right, okay? That I'm a hypocrite. Let's say he's just told me I'm a hypocrite. Piers has said, you're a hypocrite, David. You're a hypocrite, David. Okay, Piers, fine. Let's say I am a hypocrite on some level because of the bees, the almonds, the avocados, everything you just said, all right? So if I'm a hypocrite on some level because of that, then that makes you also a hypocrite, but it makes you an even more monstrous hypocrite than me. Because Piers is claiming to care about the little guys, and he calls them the little guys multiple times. But not only does Piers eat almonds and avocados, just like the majority of meat eaters, he also funds the mass mutilation and slaughter of tens of billions of cows, pigs, chickens, and other animals, right? So if I'm a hypocrite, then he is a much, much bigger hypocrite. And it's either we're both hypocrites, right? And Piers is a much worse, much more violent hypocrite than I am, or it's that neither of us are hypocrites, right? So which is it? And the reason this is important is because, let me give you an example, right? Let's say you've got two people and they're both against slavery, right? Two people, both that are against slavery. One of them is eating products that may or may not have come from slave labor because, with some parts of the world, it's not entirely sure. You can't always be sure where exactly a product came from because they get all the ingredients mixed and stuff like that. Maybe one of the ingredients came from slave labor, but it's hard to find out because there's also places that don't do that, whatever, right? So we have one situation where the product may or may not have come from slave labor, but the other person directly and knowingly buys products made from forced slave labor, from slave families in North Africa where there are still slaves, okay? They know they're buying it from there. They know exactly where it comes from. It's from slave labor, from slave families. They buy it anyway. And they say, I'm going to do that anyway. So would you say, oh, they're both equally hypocritical? They're both equally hypocritical. No, you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't do that. Oh, it's basically the same. You wouldn't say it's the same. So obviously, what you would say is the person who is going out and directly funding those slave families, they're the ones directly supporting slavery. You're going to say, you shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do that. I'm not going to buy those products anymore because of what they directly support. And I don't think you should either. Okay? Now imagine you say that to that person and they turn around and go, well, you buy things that may or may not have come from that. You see what I mean? It's so ridiculous because we know that the world is imperfect. We know it's hard to source all the things we buy ethically. We know that it's difficult, but we can do our best, can't we? Okay? So this is what veganism is. And this is what Piers is not doing. He is the person in this example who directly supports slavery, but then turns around and shouts at the people who have stopped directly supporting it. But he shouts at them because the way they've chosen, it still possibly has issues. And it's like, yeah, mate, but the way you're doing it, you're knowingly doing this and then criticizing others who stopped doing it and because their way isn't perfect. If he actually cared about what he was saying, he would say, do you know what? You're right. I'm going to stop eating meat, dairy, eggs. I'm going to be a vegan. But I've got a problem with the whole bees problem, this bees and avocados. And I think, hey, listen, I'm going to work with you guys to try and change the system for the avocados and the almonds because I think it's an imperfect system. And currently, I don't think veganism is doing its best, right? So I'm going to be a vegan and I'm going to come along and try and improve things. That's if he actually cared. But instead, what he's doing is he's sitting there doing the worst he can possibly do for every animal, criticizing people who are trying to do something better for animals, while he does the worst possible thing for all animals. Absolutely ridiculous. And you know, when bringing this up with him, I'm sure he'd have some fancy way of getting out of it, some distraction like he's done constantly over and over again in this interview. But it truly is next level pathetic. All right then, guys, I'm scrolling back up the chat. We'll switch the screen for a little bit while I scroll up the chat to see what have you guys been saying. I asked you to put my name in. Let's scroll up a little bit. Oh, I see. Sved, thank you so much for the super chat, mate. It says, thank you, David, for your hard work. Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. And let's actually take a look. We had a... Yeah, nice one. Nice one. I got that there. Sweet. Okay, nice. So what do we get? All right, we've got nothing of value. Yeah, earlier on I asked the trolls. I said, hey, trolls, people who are getting upset, say something, and nothing of value so far. We have Reese saying, Jesus broke bread and fish with people and sat and ate with them, so Jesus wasn't a vegetarian. The word, we've already been through this, mate, but the word fish was mistranslated many times in the texts, which is why that's not necessarily true. You should watch the movie Christspiracy to see that actually Jesus himself never talks about eating fish, he talks about eating bread. So that's not entirely true, and that's what the movie covers. Rebel Science with a super chat, thank you. It says, there are a few smart people whose IQ drops straight to zero when it comes to talking about veganism. Piers Morgan, Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Sam Harris. Yes, great list of people. Thank you. Thank you for the super chat. That's a great point. That is absolutely true how it goes. Still scrolling through. What else we got? We got a troll just telling me what they're going to eat tonight. Still no arguments, obviously. Appealing to history is a fallacy, though, David. You need to stop mentioning slavery. Appeal to history. It's not an appeal to history. It's discussing facts, mate. That's so dumb. And it looks like that is pretty much it. Wow, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. So for context, guys, I know there's quite a lot of you here right now. For those who are just joining, I'm a vegan and I've been currently streaming for a little bit of time. We were just doing a reaction to a video, which we'll finish off in a moment. And during the reaction to the video, when I wasn't replying to the chat, we've been at this for about an hour. There was a lot of people in the chat who were just saying lots of nasty things about me and saying I was wrong and saying I was lying. I paused and I said, guys, everyone who said I was lying, everyone who said I was wrong, you got to come in here and now you have the opportunity. Just put my name in the chat and I will answer you and I'll explain and I can respond to the things you thought I was wrong on, right? I gave them a good bit of time just now to put in what they wanted to say and I got nothing. I got nothing. So guys, listen, the people who aren't vegan here, the people who aren't vegan, who would you rather be aligned with, okay? People who act like that, or people who are like me, who are willing to speak up. I am here on camera with my microphone, with my camera, and I'm willing to answer your questions. I'm willing to talk to you here right now. Pretty open. I'll do my best. I'll answer your questions if I can see them, and I'll get to them. I am here for this, right? So who do you want to align with? Who would you rather talk to? Someone like me who's willing to speak to you, or these people who just throw abuse, who just chat nonsense, who make claims about me, and then when asked to put the claims here, they disappear. Like cowards, guys. All right? Again, you don't need to be a vegan to agree with vegans. You know that, right? We can agree on a lot of things because we are, if you're a good person, then we probably already agree on 99% of things. We've probably got the same views on most things. Just because I'm vegan and you're not does not mean that we are necessarily opposed to each other. You got to realize that, guys, all right? Some people don't seem to be able to get that message, unfortunately, but, Orthodox Boxing says, Jesus Christ ate fish and lamb. You have never read the Bible. We have, guys, listen, Orthodox Boxing, we just literally responded and reacted to a 1 hour long video, guys, a 1 hour long video where they discussed how there were mistranslations in the Bible for the word fish, and there were mistranslations in the Bible for the words for meat, and also how Jesus himself actually declined to eat lamb on at least one occasion. We've been through all that. I've not read the Bible back to front, all right? But they have. I've watched this documentary by them. I have seen the researchers that they've interviewed. People who have read the Bible hundreds of times and have read the scriptures are saying that Jesus most likely wasn't consuming animals. Not me. I'm repeating what they said. People who have actually done the work and studied this stuff. So if you don't want to believe me, then okay, go and talk to these people then and see what they say. Watch the movie. Watch Christspiracy when it comes out. Remember, I'm not the one here. Most of the time when I do my streams, guys, I am the messenger. I am passing on the information. Do you understand? I am not vegan Jesus. I am not the one who came up with all of these things. I am a messenger. That's it. All right? So you guys don't need to go crazy at me. You know what I'm saying? Why are you guys bringing up that topic? We can't do that topic simply because YouTube will mess up my stream over it, unfortunately. You're lying about the mistranslation of fish. I've just checked it right now in the Hebrew lexicon. It shows the correct word. Listen, Clays, the person who they're talking to in the documentary is somebody who is literally an expert ancient Hebrew translator, and she confirms that it is a mistranslation. You're using Google to go and check out some Hebrew. They're literally dealing with somebody whose job it is to translate these scriptures. All right, so I'm going to trust that individual and all the other individuals in that documentary and these theologians. I'm more inclined to listen to them than you, and so should you be. Maybe you could watch the documentary and you could contact the people they speak to in the documentary and have that argument with them. Because at the end of the day, these are the people who've devoted their entire lives to translating the Bible. You and I, we have not, right? So we got to look at, hear what they say. And if we disagree with them, then okay, disagree with them, see what they say. They're the ones who have found the information and passed it on, and I'm passing it on to you. You know what I'm saying? You're saying it's a lie. Well, you're not saying I'm lying. You're saying this person who's devoted her entire life to Hebrew translations and translating scriptures, you're saying she's lying. So it's her you've got an issue with, not me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, let's get back and finish this video then. And also, guys, I could see, I don't know, there's not many questions coming in. You guys are just chatting with each other. So we'll get back into this video and see if there's anything. I think it's just literally about to finish. Let's do it.
We're talking about a historical event where Christ...
Kip, Cameron, it's been very interesting talking to you. You haven't persuaded me.
You need to watch the film.
We're called uncensored.
Well, if you watch the film, let's have it again.
I was about to give you a plug. People can watch it themselves. It's a free world. This show is called Uncensored. I've given you the platform. You've expressed yourselves forcefully. I disagree with your pretext completely. And I think there is a whiff of sanctimony and hypocrisy about the way that you take part in the slaughter of bees. But we will agree to disagree. And I wish you a very happy day.
Pierce, one last thing. From the beginning of the Bible to the end, it's very, very clear. Genesis 1:29, God gave us plants to eat. In the future coming of the prophetic kingdom of heaven, the lion will lay with the lamb, and it's the same thing. We're right in the middle of that time, so you as a Christian should be able to ask these questions without shutting them down. I promise you it's not as hypocritical as you think.
You know what?
It's a very, very good question to ask, and it goes so much deeper than whether or not Jesus was a vegetarian.
On my way home tonight,
film,
as I'm eating a Big Mac with large fries, I'll give it a thought. Guys, I've got to leave it there. Thank you very much.
After you watch the film, you might think twice.
Kim, Cameron, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much.
So the man who just said he cares about the bees because he cares about the little guys. I care about the little guys, and this is why I've got a problem with this. Just said on the way home, I'm going to go and pay for a Big Mac, which came from stabbing a cow in the throat. So, yeah, he doesn't care about the little guys, and he doesn't care about animals full stop. You see, Piers just is a chameleon. He just, when he's something he disagrees with, he pretends that he cares about animals. He pretends that he cares about bees to try and call vegans hypocrites. He is by far the most violent hypocrite there is when it comes to animals. Pathetic, next level pathetic. This was possibly his worst ever performance in an interview. And that's me speaking as someone, as I said, who tends to, I don't know, I quite enjoy some of his interviews. This was embarrassing, in my opinion, for Piers Morgan. Embarrassing. What a shame. All right, guys, let's get back in the chat again, see what you guys are saying. I see some silly billies. Every time I started watching the video, the silly billies came back out again, which is fun. Yeah, see, again, we've got a guy. We'll give you a little shout out because you're so desperate for attention. Ben Chipping says the damage control here was unreal. Ben, now you've got to give us each individual point that you think I was wrong on and type them out one by one with my name, and then I'll answer them. And if you don't do that, it means you've got nothing. Okay, Ben? So give it a go. Let's see if we can do it. Megurine says, explain me why why the vegan meat substitutes are filled with fillers and corn, which is known to be inherently unhealthy for people. That's because vegan meat substitutes are not supposed to be healthy. Now, I don't know about which fillers you're talking about. I don't even know which country you're talking about. In America, most stuff you get in the freezer is not good for you. In other countries, in England, there's a lot of actually good plant-based meats that are more healthy. Tofu is usually a pretty good option. It's pretty healthy. Seitan is pretty good too as well, just made from gluten. But yeah, I mean, vegan burgers, vegan sausages, stuff that you'd buy in the freezer that are ready-made, they're not health foods. They're not supposed to make you healthy. That's not even what veganism's about. All they're designed to do is to replicate the taste of the foods that people like, except without the violence. That's it. If you've got a problem with the lack of healthiness of something, then the simple solution is you can make it yourself. If you want to make burgers that don't come from killing animals but also are healthy, get yourself some beans, mash them up with something, you make a bean burger. I don't know the exact recipe, just Google it. Homemade bean burgers. You can just make yourself a bean burger. Bean burgers are banging, by the way. Tofu, again, like I've said, you get yourself some plain tofu, unsalted, so it's not too unhealthy. You could make your own seitan. All you need is I think it's which one is it now? Like a gluten flour or something. I can't remember how it is. I'm not a chef, guys. Get yourself some gluten flour, some water, and some spices, and mix it together, and you boil it for a bit, and then you can fry it up or whatever, and it makes it like a meat substitute. It's pretty good. Tastes nice, high in protein, and it has a pretty good texture if you get it right. Also, a lot of people using mushrooms, I've seen a lot of people using mushrooms to kind of create that meaty texture as well, because mushrooms have a naturally quite a meaty texture to them, and they can do if you prepare them well. So again, yeah, Megarine, good question. But yeah, the short answer is the meat substitutes, they're not designed to be health foods because they're not health foods. They're just designed to be like burgers and sausages. The burgers and sausages are not health foods either, whether they're made of animals or and then at least with the vegan ones, the plant-based ones, you can find healthier ones. But yeah, like I said, sausages in general made from dead pigs are not supposed to be healthy, not designed to be healthy, are they? Same as burgers, you know what I'm saying? What have we got? What else we got? So guys, you're going to have to keep the questions coming fast because I'm looking at the most recent chat and I'm looking for my name. Orthodox Boxing says, Genesis 9:3 states, every moving thing that lives shall be food for you, and as I gave you the green plants, I give you everything. Every moving thing? Really, Orthodox Boxing? Really, every moving thing? So humans too, then? Babies. What about puppies and kittens? They're also food for us, are they? What about like wolves? What about crocodiles and what other animals? What about, trying to think like whales and no, I'm trying to think of more interesting examples actually. You know, monitor lizards, you know, those guys. Insects, yeah, beetles. You could eat some beetles too because it's all food, right? Beetles, ants. You could eat ants. What about head lice? What about those head lice you find in your hair? You're gonna eat the head lice because they move, right? What about parasites? What about like those parasites that would that attach themselves to your skin when you know try and lay eggs under your skin and stuff like that? What about worms and maggots? You can eat maggots and worms as well. You're gonna eat all those things. Parasites, I think, is an interesting one. You're gonna eat parasites, yeah, because they're moving, right? Every moving thing. Just saying, mate. Just saying. The Bible was written by people. It was written by men. It wasn't written by Jesus. It wasn't written by gods, right? So, you know, it contradicts itself a lot. And I'm sure, I'm actually 100% sure that there are about 100 passages probably that would argue the opposite of what that passage says. The point is, and the point that I'm trying to make as well as Christspiracy, is it appears to be that Jesus himself wasn't on board with killing animals. Or it appears to be that he even tried to defend animals. That's the revelation here. So, you know what I mean? So if it comes between what the Bible says versus what it looks like Jesus says, I think I'm leaning towards listening to what Jesus said versus what people wrote before or after him that humans wrote about what things they wanted to do. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we'll move past that. And also, you've got to ask as well, this is an interesting one. If you truly believe in God, whichever religion you've got, and you believe that your God is a peaceful God and a God that's worth worshipping and a God that doesn't want, you know, to hurt or whatever, and compassion and all loving, then you've also got to believe then that God created animals, your God created animals with thoughts and feelings and emotions and the ability to have all different types of pain and suffering, both physiological and psychological suffering, so they can feel pain on their skin and they can also have pain in their minds, only so you could shoot them, gas them, and stab them and eat them. That sounds like more like the work of a devil, not a god, to me, to be totally honest with you. Because if that's what your God does, then what the hell does the devil do? Answer that one in there for me, please, guys. If God creates innocent, defenseless animals with all pain and suffering and the ability to feel pain, suffering, joy, happiness, just so you can mutilate them and kill them and eat them, then where does the devil come into that exactly? Right? That'll be how do you work that out? What it more sounds like to me, guys, it sounds more like to me that the people who are trying to say, yeah, Jesus was a killer and God wants us to kill animals, it sounds like you're working backwards. It's more that you're saying, I want to kill animals, I want to eat meat because I like it, therefore God definitely says it's fine. Why don't you try and actually have some respect for the God that you follow and for Jesus if you follow Jesus? Why don't you try having a bit of respect for them? And instead of assuming that they was just mindlessly violent beings that wanted you to stab animals in the throat and eat them, why not try assuming that they were kind, compassionate, and loving, and that if given the choice, they would never, ever want you to kill? If you have the choice to abuse and kill animals or not, and you're saying that God and Jesus don't care either way, sounds to me like that's just a story you're telling yourself to try and justify it. Because if the most compassionate man, if Jesus was here right now in front of you and you said, hey, Jesus, should I stab that chicken, chop their head off and eat them, or should I eat the plant-based option? And you think Jesus would be like, yeah, no, that's that chicken. You should stab that chicken. Go and stab that chicken, or whichever God you follow. And you're living in cuckoo land. You know what I mean? You've lost. You're lost if that's what you think. You truly lost. You are completely indoctrinated by the meat industry, by the dairy industry, if that's what you believe. Truly, they have got into your head, they have won you over, and you are being driven by selfish desire. You're being driven by lust for taste, guys, if you believe that. And, you know, I think in most religions, that's something that is warned against. Lust and going after things, material things. Isn't that what most religions try and turn you away from? You know what I'm saying? Jason, thank you for the super chat, mate. Can't wait till Christspiracy is available everywhere. I've seen it 3 times. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Jesus. Thank you, mate. Jason, it's a really nice super chat, mate. And yeah, me too. I can't wait till it's available everywhere as well. Hopefully sooner rather than later, it'll be available on streaming platforms. In the meantime, guys, go to Christspiracy on Instagram, Facebook. I think they're on Facebook and on YouTube, and check out their socials that they've got up already, the videos they've got up already. Angel says, my culture states that evil is waste, so overkilling and being wasteful is where evil comes in. Well, Angel, if you think that waste is evil, I mean, wasting things is evil, why would you not also have the belief that killing is evil? Like, unnecessarily killing is evil, which is pretty much what you're saying, right? Because if you're in a situation where you don't need to kill a cow, you don't need to stab a chicken, you don't need to gas a pig to death, because that's how most pigs are killed, gassed to death, but yet you do it anyway. So you're in the supermarket and you have some money, and instead of buying the plant-based food, the lentils, the chickpeas, the potatoes, the rice, the food, all these different food that you can make at home, and instead of choosing that, you take the same money and you spend it on violence, then you are overkilling. That is overkilling, because there was no need for you to do it. There's no need for you to fund the killing of animals. So in your culture, that culture that says that killing and being wasteful is where evil comes in, overkilling, you are overkilling then, by your own logic, you know, by your own culture. Your culture should, in your culture, everybody who could be vegan should be vegan by that, you know. Thank you, Angel, by the way. It's an interesting comment. I appreciate you being honest. We believe when we eat plants and animals, we are killing them because they are all alive, I suppose you were going to say there. For sure. There is no life, no life for us without killing, for sure. But we shouldn't, I mean, animals and plants are not equal, are they? Right? And if you were to claim they were, we know that we're heading into silly territory. We know for a fact that plants are by far the lowest life form that we can consume. Lowest in the sense that they don't feel anything, they don't have pain, they don't have brains. So if we're going to kill to eat, we have to go there. We can get all our nutrition from there. Why would we go up the chain to a thinking, feeling animal that cares about their family, that feels pain like we do, that has psychological and physical pain like we do, that has a subjective experience and an understanding of the world that's very similar to a small child, completely innocent and defenseless, and again, with all of the things that we value? Why would we choose to kill them rather than killing the plant that has none of those things? That's sadistic. If we choose to cause pain and suffering when we don't have to, that's sadistic. It's sick, isn't it? You know. Reese is saying, so because you think plants are stupid, they're okay to eat. A plant can't be stupid, because they don't have brains. They don't have the capability to be stupid. They just are, right? So, no, they don't have a subjective experience. They don't have an individual personality or the ability to feel any kind of pain or suffer. They don't have the cognitive abilities to understand or view the world in any way that is meaningful morally, right? And that's how we operate. That's how we have to operate. Because if we have to kill some life, and not always, by the way, because obviously there are some plants you can eat without killing. But the idea that if any of you are going to try now to compare eating animals to eating plants in a serious way, you're lost, guys. You are completely and utterly lost. And I will not go down that path with you, because it is just so ridiculous, and it's so obviously ridiculous to anybody with half a brain, and it's so obviously a distraction. It's a method of just trying to get away from the fact that we shouldn't be abusing and mutilating and killing animals when we can eat something else. You know what I'm saying? So Megarine, I see you're asking about research that plants feel pain. You know, as well as I know, that is nonsense, because they don't have nerve endings. They can't feel pain. They don't have a brain. Okay? We all know it's nonsense. So let's not go down that road. Okay? I know it's tempting when we have these discussions about animals, and I know it's tempting because the only reason that you would bring that up, the only reason anybody brings up the idea that plants might have pain, is because they don't want to stop killing animals and eating them, or drinking their milk, or eating their eggs. They just don't want to stop. That's the only reason that comes up. You know as damn well as I know, plants don't have pain, and that plants are the obvious choice if you're trying to be an ethical person, if you're trying to be a person that doesn't bring violence into the world. You know as well as I know, eating plants is the way forward, all right? Come on. Let's be real, guys. Let's not play games. I am here to answer questions. As a vegan, I'm watching the chat, by the way, and I am here to answer questions from you. But ask me good questions, guys. Ask me meaningful questions. Ask me things that you genuinely would like to know about being a vegan, about animals. But, you know, I would politely request that you don't try to say animals are like plants and it's the same because we don't believe that. You don't believe that. You truly don't. You know damn well you don't, and I know damn well you don't. So let's not mess around. Yeah, let's not play games here. All right? We can a little bit, you know, play some games. You guys are trolling and stuff, but come on, let's not be silly billies. Avi Duda, thank you for the chat, for the super chat, mate, for the donation. There are so many anti-vegan trolls on your last post, and it really frustrated me. I tried posting a pro-vegan comment where I listed some of the horrific practices in factory farming, but it didn't show up. Why? Really appreciate your activism, by the way. Cheers, mate. Appreciate that. YouTube, so if you have too many words that YouTube thinks are violent words, I don't know, maybe talking about slitting throats or, I don't know, death and killing, and sometimes YouTube just throws it straight to the spam. And it's, you know, it's annoying. It's not me. It's not me. Sometimes I can approve them manually, but a lot of the time I can't, and they just disappear into the somewhere else. But thank you, Avi, for the super chat, mate. I appreciate it. And try, when you're making a comment, just copy it and put it in notes in your phone or whatever and try again. Bees says, "Oi, you fraud. Dr. Michael Brown is a Hebrew scholar who's an expert in the Old and New Testament for over 42 years, and he says Jesus and his disciples ate meat. What's your responses?" Again, Bees, you're not calling me a fraud. You're calling all of these people from this documentary who've studied this for years, who've devoted their lives to studying the Bible and to studying Jesus, you're calling them frauds, not me. I'm passing on the information from that documentary to you. Now it's up to you to watch that documentary, Christspiracy, to watch those experts. You can maybe note their names down, and then you can call them frauds to their faces if you like. But in that documentary, there were many of them, and as far as to my knowledge, none of them were even bloody vegan. Maybe one of them, but most of them weren't vegan. And they say what they said. They said what they said. The mistranslations, the information. So again, I don't know why you call it be a fraud. I'm taking that information and passing it on to you from a documentary that I saw where people were interviewed, theologians, lecturers, professors, experts, and they said these things, all right? So there you go. Yassine says, "What's your view on halal slaughter compared to other forms of killing?" Halal slaughter is just as brutal and violent as any form of killing. They're all brutal and violent. So let me explain the difference between halal and non-halal slaughter. Halal killing and non-halal killing of animals. So in halal, what they will do is they'll take an animal, a chicken, sheep, a goat, a cow, or a pig. They'll put them in a machine a lot of the time. The machine turns them over and they just slit their throat. They just drag a knife across their throat, slash it open, and then the animal bleeds out slowly and dies in fear and pain. That's halal killing. And then a lot of people hate that and they say halal is cruel, halal is the worst, halal is the worst. Well, let me talk you through what they do to chickens now. So what they do to chickens in non-halal killing, they dunk the chicken in electrified water and then they slash the chicken's throat. Let me tell you what they do to cows. They shoot the cow in their head, crack their skull with a bolt gun, and then slash their throat. And with pigs, the most common way of killing pigs, they lower them down into a CO2 gas chamber and gas them until either they pass out or die. The gas itself forms acid in their eyes and lungs, burns them, they scream for 30 seconds to 3 minutes, it can be, scream, and eventually, they pass out or die right there in the gas chamber. So you can make your own mind up about which is worse, halal or non-halal, or you can be sensible and say, all of that is incredibly violent, all of it is horrific. And by the way, vegetarians, please don't think that you're not funding any of this just because you don't eat meat. The dairy industry and the egg industry, all those cows and chickens in those industries, where do you think they go? Where do you think they go? They go straight into the meat industry. The dairy industry is the meat industry. The egg industry is the meat industry. Every industry that involves animals, in terms of clothing, in terms of eggs or things that come out of animals, it all connects back in. They all end up in the slaughterhouses, the same slaughterhouses where all the animals are killed for meat, and they're killed in all the same ways. So, yeah, Yassine, that's my view. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's all violence, guys. All violence. No Noob Gamer is asking, what supplements do you take, David Rams? I take a multivitamin, and for training, I do protein powders to just bump up the protein, because I'm training 4 times a week right now. And I take creatine, which is also for training as well. But if you're not training, you don't need creatine or protein powders. They're just for me because like I said, I'm training a lot, so gotta make sure that eating properly as well. But yeah, take a multivitamin every day, has B12 in it, has vitamin D in it, stuff like that, and loads of other stuff. But basically, yeah, that's just because I'm lazy, because I can't be bothered to, monitor nutrition. So a lot of people do that. Even a lot of meat eaters do the same thing, just take a multivitamin just to cover the bases. But yeah, as a vegan, the only thing that you would struggle to get without a vitamin would be B12. Without a supplement would be B12. B12 is the only thing that you would need to supplement as a vegan. The reason being that it's just not available in big quantities in food anymore. And if you're thinking, well, I've heard that animals' products have B12 in, meat has B12 in it, and dairy does, and eggs and stuff like that all has B12 in it. The reason that there are B12 in those in animal bodies and animal secretions, the reason there's B12 in meat, dairy, eggs, is because the animals are fed B12. They're either injected with it or it's put into their food. So they're also eating B12 supplements, and then you're eating them. So as a vegan, we just take the B12 supplement instead, Hey, what's up, Charlie Veach? Bloody hell. Not seen you in a stream since we actually had a debate on stream. How you doing, man? Poppy May says, I've recently started doing activism. I have a lot of respect for you. I met you at a pigment protest in Horsham. Oh, awesome, Poppy. That was a crazy day, huh? Thank you for getting into activism. That is amazing. Stick around the channel and be sure to ask questions. I'll do my best to help you with any questions you have about getting out there doing activism anytime. Yo-Yo Doctor asks, why is it bad to take eggs if it was treated well when that egg will never be chicks? That is a great question, Yo-Yo Doctor, and thank you for asking it. So the egg industry, mate, so how it works is you get these egg-laying hens, right? And they've been selectively bred and their bodies have been manipulated. So now they lay 300 eggs a year, more or less, okay? Do you know how many eggs they're supposed to lay, like wild chickens? They're supposed to lay 12 eggs a year. So what do you think laying 300 eggs does to a chicken's body? It hurts them. They lose a lot of nutrition. They end up with really bad health issues. A lot of them can't even walk because of just they're very weak. They get malnutrition. They get really heavy as well because they're also growing quite quickly. They're like Frankenstein chickens, these chickens, okay? The humans have messed with them so much that they're a complete and utter mess. So that's one thing you need to consider. The second thing you need to consider is when they're actually hatching these chickens, the ones for the egg industry, so they keep on breeding them, right? So they've got to get the male chicks and the female chicks separated because the females lay eggs and they need them for the egg industry. But the male chicks, these are egg chickens. They're not meat chickens. So they don't need them. So what they do with the male chicks, little 1 minute to 2 minute old little chickens, they throw them into a giant macerator, kind of like this, a big blender that does this. They throw them in alive. Kill them. And if they don't do that, they drown them. And if they don't do that, they just throw them all together in a massive tub and suffocate them. They suffocate under the weight of each other. These are baby chickens, little, like I said, 1 to a couple minutes old, possibly maximum 1 or 2 day old chickens. Okay, that's the egg industry. On top of that, what do you think happens to all of those egg-laying chickens? The second they produce less eggs, they start to slow down because they get old. What do you think happens then? They go straight into the meat industry. They go straight into the meat industry where they're dunked in electrified water and a man or a woman will slash their throat open. And then that's the end of their life. That is violent. The egg industry is in my opinion, the egg industry is more violent even than the meat industry, because the egg industry is the meat industry. The same way the dairy industry is the meat industry. It's the meat industry plus more violence. That's what the egg industry is. That's what the dairy industry is. So thank you, Yo-Yo Doctor, for your question. I hope that answers your question for you. That's why we don't fund the egg industry. Bees is now saying, but the experts disagree, so how do we decide who's right and wrong? What makes the scholars you quoted more credible than the ones I quoted? What a fraud you are. See, Bees, your comment started so well. There's a good question. Who makes one right and the other wrong? Well, that's for the experts to get together and debate, isn't it? That's when we all learn more, isn't it? I've never said my experts are right and yours are wrong, have I? I just said, I got the movie, I listened to those experts, and I provided you the information. Now, excuse me, you can do with that what you will, right? At the end of the day, though, there is a question as to what Jesus did or didn't do when it came to animals. It's not set in stone. There is a question, there is a debate to be had. And Christspiracy is bringing that debate to the table. I don't think anyone has ever claimed it's done and dusted. No one's ever said that that is it, settled. That's not what's happened here. I don't know why you keep saying I'm a fraud when I'm passing on the information to you. You're being silly. Calm down and be reasonable. The first part of your question is correct. We don't know who decides what is right and wrong. We need to get these experts together and they can debate it on a stage and we can all watch and we can all make our own minds up, can't we? And that will most likely happen after the documentary is released and they'll probably start hosting some of these debates and seeing what happens, right? But either way, regardless of the outcome of that, regardless of whether it turns out that Jesus wasn't eating animals or whether he was eating animals, that doesn't mean that you need to decide what you do based on it. If it turns out Jesus was eating animals, that doesn't mean you have to keep eating animals. You can disagree. You can have a different opinion. And the beauty is, if you believe in Jesus and Christianity, you could still be a vegan even if Jesus wasn't. If Jesus was a meat eater, you could still choose not to eat meat. Because you could say, well, that's fine that he did. I don't want to, because I actually don't believe I want to do this kind of violence to animals. You're still going to go to heaven, mate, if you believe in heaven. You're not going to get to heaven's gate and then they turn around and go, hey, you went vegan, so you're not coming in. Do you know what I mean? The reason the Jesus conversation is interesting, it's just interesting because it's somebody that a lot of people look up to. It's somebody a lot of people believe in. And asking this question it's an interesting question. It's something that's not set in stone. It's something that Christspiracy has brought to the table. It's interesting, that's all, but it doesn't need to mean anything major. It doesn't mean, if it turns out that it was wrong, it doesn't mean that, oh, okay, then screw it, we'll just kill all the animals. It doesn't have to be that way. But if it turns out that it's right, that Jesus wasn't eating animals, well then, okay, it doesn't mean that you automatically have to go vegan. It just means that, well, maybe I would hope you'd be inspired to actually go vegan. It doesn't mean that you're automatically... No one's saying that you automatically go to hell if you don't go vegan, right? But if you believe in hell, what do you think you'd be more likely to go to hell for? Avoiding violence to animals or committing violence to animals? I don't believe in hell. So for me, this is, I'm just speaking in your language. I don't know, but I'm not saying that I think you will go to hell. I'm saying if we were to ask which is more likely going to get you there, I'd say it's being violent to animals is more likely to get you there. Is it not? Is it not? I don't know. You guys are the religious ones, You guys are the ones that believe in God. Because I'm a what's the word I'm looking for right now? I gave the definition of it, but it's gone. I would consider myself Christian in many ways, but not in the way of not theistic. You see, I follow Jesus' teachings, but I'm not convinced about the godly aspect of it. So yeah, Cyril King says, "What if the animal dies naturally of old age? Would it still be bad?" The more important question here is why would you want to eat an animal that died of old age? Like, why would you want to, if you had a cow that died, a 24-year-old cow, 23-year-old cow just died there in front of you that I assume you were looking after, why would you want to eat them anyway? And look, there is an issue in that you're still looking at an animal and you're saying, your value is that I want to eat bits of your body. And as long as people think that about animals, the world is going to be horrible to animals. Put it this way. Cyril King, have a think about this, okay? How many videos have you seen of people abusing animals online? Punching, kicking. Joey Carbstrong, the animal rights activist, just released a video where he's been able to secretly film people punching pigs before they kill them in a slaughterhouse. Punching pigs in the face. How horrible is that? Just recently, there was a bodybuilder who got exposed for punching and strangling a cat on stream. Horrible. Horrible. He got exposed for doing that. The video came out. Now, I put this to you, Cyril King. I put this to you. I believe, and I think I'm right, people will always do those types of things to animals so long as people like you see animals as pieces of meat and things to be taken from. Right? Things. Animals as things that we can take meat from them, take their flesh. We can take their milk, take their eggs, because I want to eat it and drink it. As long as that's the way that you and the majority of people view animals, other people are going to abuse them. Because if the dominant narrative and the dominant mindset is, I can take things from them. When they die, they're meat for me. When they die, their body is leather for me. I can make shoes out of them. As long as that level of disrespect is put on animals and their bodies, people are going to kick them and punch them and strangle them. Because it's just disrespect. It's not looking at them as anything, but what can they do for me? I truly believe that, Cyril King. So that's something for you to have a think about, mate. I think we need a collective consciousness shift in the way that we view animals. Currently, and for a very long time, we viewed animals as, what can they do for me? They are things that can give me pleasure, or they are things that can give me some kind of benefit, like a table, or a car, or my shoes, right? Until that changes, people are always going to abuse them. Until that changes, all these stories of people kicking dogs, strangling cats, punching animals in the face, burning down birds' nests or whatever it is that people are doing, it's going to continue because we need a shift of consciousness. We need to stop looking at them like that, and we need to start looking at them as what they are. We need to start to respect the fact that they have all the things that we value. They have the innocence, they have the vulnerability, they have the ability to feel pain, they have the ability to feel pleasure, but they can suffer as well. They fight for their lives, they value their families, they have personalities and individual personalities, and they have friends, they have enemies, they have all the things, all the basic things that we would look at. Look at a baby, for example. A baby can't do much, right? But we know they have pain, we know we give their lives value because of how vulnerable they are, and we know that they're completely defenseless, and we protect them. Animals have all the things that deserve protection, and we need to have a big consciousness shift. We need to flip around the way we see them. Niranyan's asking, need to order Bruno Mars shoes. What is your choice of vegan dress shoes? I don't know what Bruno Mars shoes are, mate, but if you need some dress shoes, I think Amazon's pretty good for fake leather, like faux leather, vegan leather. There's also there's some expensive options, mate, but yeah, Amazon's your cheapest bet. But if you're looking for a more fancier option, you could go look at Will's Vegan Shoes in London. There's also a place called Vegetarian Shoes, also in London. They both have online websites if you wanted to look into it, but I don't know where you're based. Niranyan, I guess India or Sri Lanka. I don't know what's in that part of the world, but if you're in the States or the UK, I believe that those shoes are easy to find. But actually, no, in India they were pretty easy to find because obviously India has a lot of people who don't wear leather. They are against it. So yeah, you'll be able to pick some up there as well. It just depends on where you look and what you're after and what kind of budget you have, mate. But yeah, it's possible to get them. Noob Gamer's asking, don't you take omega-3 supplements? No, I don't take omega-3 supplements. I eat flaxseed and other seeds as well. I think we do flaxseed, we do sesame seed, we do different various nuts and seeds, and the omegas are pretty much covered. I don't know if they're in the multivitamin as well. I'm not too sure, but yeah, if that's a concern for you, then you can pick up some vegan omegas. It depends, honestly, it just depends on how lazy you are, to be honest with you. If you're somebody who's really dialed in, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna dial in every single, I'm going to buy all this wide range of food and make sure, or if you're more of a busy person, you've got a busy life, and you just listen, I just want an easy life. I'm not that into food. I just want to get the nutrition, and you could just buy a supplement and just get on with life. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. I know some vegans who are really into the really into the nutrition, they're really picky, and they get every single specific type of food, and they make these really impressive meals and stuff like that. But that's not me. I'm lazy. So yeah, it just depends on what you're about. Oh yeah, Naranyan's saying, I'm in the USA right now. Bruno Mars vegan shoes on Amazon US. India, I'm not able to find because people don't care about buying leather couches and leather shoes and belts, etc. Naranyan, when I checked Amazon in India, I found a lot of vegan shoes there. And actually, there was companies in India like that sell vegan leather shoes. So I don't know. Maybe you've just not looked hard enough, man. Have another good look for them, and I think you'll find some leather-free shoes over there. Yeah. Someone's asking. Kian's asking Ronaldo or Messi. I mean, that's obvious. It's Messi. Come on, don't be silly. That's the first non-vegan related question today that I'll answer. And then the last, Paul asks, how long have you been vegan, dude? Thank you for an interesting question, Paul. I've been vegan for about 14 years, probably going on 15 now. And also, I've never eaten meat. I've never been a meat eater. I was born and raised as a vegetarian, and then vegan now for about 14, 15 years. If you'd like a bit more about me, I'll give you a bit more. So health-wise, I can give you. So at the beginning of last year, I think it was, something like that, I was about 70 kilos. I'm about 6'2", and I was 70 kilos. And then since then to now, I'm now sitting at 91 kilos, about 91 kilos. And I've done this because I've been training at the gym and eating a lot and smashing it and trying to build a lot of muscle. And I'm doing this at the age of 34. I'm 35 in June. So yeah, this is, I think that's pretty good for this is just to prove to you that if you want to do that, if you want to be eat plant-based, you want to be a vegan, you want to build muscle, you want to be healthy, even at 34, I'm still doing it. You know what I mean? I've not got my youth anymore. I've not got those youth gains anymore, but still getting on with it, So that's my short version of my story. A little bit of that, a little bit of this, and I'll answer any more questions about veganism, guys. So ask me questions about being a vegan. Ask me questions. Maybe you can ask me why I went vegan if you like. You can ask me why we don't eat eggs, why we don't drink dairy, why we don't eat meat. You can ask me about leather if you want to. You can ask me anything you want, pretty much, and I'll do my best to answer them as long as they are, as long as they're good questions, sensible questions. As long as you're not trying to troll or anything like that. I may not answer you if you're trolling, okay, guys? But if you're asking with sincerity, I'll answer you. How long ago did you unlock live shorts on YouTube? This is very recent, actually. Yeah, you can just open your phone and do it, and it should be all right. But I'm doing it through Streamlabs right now, which is pretty cool. Peaches for me is asking, why do vegans feel that veganism is a personality trait? It's one thing that turns people off from the lifestyle. Not everyone wants to be nothing but a person who always talks about vegan. So this is a confirmation bias, Peaches, for me. So basically, you got to think about this, right? Where are you seeing vegans who talk about being vegan? You see them online. And also, when you meet people in person and they're going on about being vegan, right? How many people do you meet that don't say anything about veganism? And how many people that are online also don't say anything about veganism? A lot. Actually, Peaches, for me, the vast majority of vegans don't talk about being a vegan whatsoever, in person or online. Because the vast majority of vegans are actually quite sensitive people that don't want conflict, and they stay out of it. Because that's what actually a lot of people are drawn to being kind to animals, because they are all naturally quite empathetic people, so they don't want conflict. They don't want to fight with people. That's not what they're into. Now, the people you see who talk about being vegan, like myself, well, we have chosen to go out there and try and talk about this because we want people to stop hurting animals. And the people you'll see online like me or in person like me, that's because they speak about it because they've made a decision. Because they say, listen, I care about animals. I think most people care about animals. I want to pass on this information, and I really hope people change and also stop funding all of these horrors that happen to animals in the egg industry, the dairy industry, the meat industry, and all the other ways that we harm animals. So it's not about people having it as a personality trait. It's just about the people that you come across will most likely be activists. And yes, that's what we talk about. We've devoted our lives to doing this. But you're also missing the 90% of vegans who haven't devoted their lives to this, and you'd never know they were vegan because they don't speak up like we do. You get what I'm saying? 9 out of 10 vegans don't say a word. And then 1 or 2 out of 10 do, and they're the ones that you're coming across. Thanks for the question, Peaches, for me. I actually wish that more people would speak up. I wish that we had more vegans who were more vocal, who tried harder to help animals, really, because at the end of the day, Peaches, for me, I think you as well, you're against animal abuse. Well, all we're trying to do is to get you people like yourself to stop paying for it. That's it. To stop being a part of the abuse, because the meat industry, as you know, they're slashing animals' throats, they're shooting them in the head, they're gassing them, they're dunking them in electrified water. It's atrocious, it's horrific. The egg industry and the meat and the dairy industry, all those animals go to the same places and get killed in the same way as the meat industry. They go straight into the meat industry, and their bodies are mutilated and abused before they get there. In the dairy industry, they're shoving their arms inside cows, taking their babies away from them and killing their babies if they're males. And the chickens, same thing. The males that are hatched, they're killed, and the females, they have the same life as their mothers have, just in these horrific barns where they're dying in their own feces and urine on the floor. If they even make it out of there, they just go straight to a slaughterhouse. It's horrible. It's horrible. So I would hope people like yourself, who clearly are against animal abuse, I'd hope people like yourself go vegan. That's why I'm speaking up. As I've said a couple times today, I'm just a messenger, guys. I'm not even a... I am a messenger, truly. I am not the gospel here. I am not the vegan Bible, the vegan Jesus. This is not what's happening here. I am passing on the information to you, and I hope that you'll do good things with that information. I can't force you to do anything. I just really hope you listen and you do something about all of this. And of course I hope you'll go vegan. Of course I hope you will. Because anyone who is against animal abuse, this is what they should do if they truly are against it, So guys, if you've got more questions, shoot them over with my name. Sebi Greg says, hey, are you on Discord? Vegan World Server does excellent activism you should check out. Vegan World Server. I don't know if I'm in that, Sebi Greg, but feel free to... I am on Discord. Feel free to drop me an email with a link if you would like to. I don't know. I might already be in the server, but yeah, I'll check it out. Cheers for that, mate. Peaches for me says, yes, I am against animal abuse. There are some parts we disagree with as abuse, such as the killing for food isn't wrong, but the way we do it is immoral. Okay, Peaches for me. So you don't think killing for killing animals to eat them is wrong? If you don't need to eat them, you're doing it for pleasure. How are you any better than a trophy hunter who kills for pleasure? Not you specifically, I mean you speaking in general. I'm not attacking you. Because trophy hunters, they kill because they enjoy killing. But people who kill animals do it because they enjoy eating burgers. Neither of these things is needed. They both can do something different. For pleasure, you can eat plant-based food instead. For pleasure and for your protein and whatever, all your nutrients. The guy who goes out and kills animals, trophy hunter, he could go and do target practice or just do anything else. It's for pleasure. Or bullfighting, for example, where they abuse animals for pleasure. I'm sure you're against that too. It's no different. It's no different to eating animals for pleasure, abusing them in sports for pleasure. And the way we do it is immoral, you say. So what way would you say, Peaches for me, in your opinion, if you still believe that there's a good way to kill animals, what is that then? What is a good way to kill animals when we don't have to and they don't want to die? And actually they scream in fear and panic. And if they could beg, they would be begging for their lives. If they could speak English, they'd be begging for their lives. So what is a good way to kill them when you could just grab something else at the supermarket instead and not kill them? Let me know. I'll keep an eye out for your response. Maybe put my name in it as well, please, and then I'll be able to see it easily. Sved, thank you for the super chat, mate. Would you consider reaching out to educational YouTubers that talk about climate change and the environment, since they never seem to talk about veganism? I mean, sure, if they would consider having a vegan on. In my experience, these people tend to avoid talking about veganism because they don't want to lose their entire follower base, But yeah, I mean, I would try for sure. If you want to, I don't know, link me up, you could maybe email me some of the names of the people you know about who do this kind of stuff. But I wouldn't hold your breath, mate, because they don't tend to want to talk really to vegans. They tend to want to avoid it. So Bees, listen, mate, I'm not going to do any more Bible and biblical stuff because I think we've been round and around on this. And I'm telling you that over and over again, guys. If you just join the chat now, or join in the stream. Earlier on in the stream, we watched a video where the guys who made Christspiracy, a new documentary that looks into the Bible and Jesus, they're talking about how Jesus may have actually been better for animals than people realize. A couple people, or bees basically, is just still talking about it and trying to make out that I'm some kind of fraud. And I've told them a couple times now that I'm passing on information from the scholars in that documentary. So, bees, the best thing you can do, mate, is as soon as the documentary comes out, you can watch it and then you can argue with them about it because I'm not a scholar, bro. I'm passing on the information, as I've said a couple times. So, all right. Bob Hill says, made by radical atheists. So actually it was a hardcore Christian who made the documentary, like an actual full-on gospel band, God-fearing Christian. So yeah. Says, is it true shellfish like lobsters and crawfish don't feel pain? No, it's not true whatsoever. They do feel pain. Go look into it. There's been research done on that. They absolutely do feel pain. Cheers for the question, mate. What if a doctor suggests me medicine which includes gelatin? It depends. It depends on, well, okay, what if a doctor gives you medicine that includes gelatin? First thing you want to ask them is, hey, is there an alternative to that doesn't have gelatin in it? Simple as that, right? So most of the time there is. Usually medicines don't just come in one format. Usually you can get them in liquid format or some other type of format. That's your first question. After that, if not, then that's a conversation that you need to. I mean, I don't know. Are you a vegan, Noob Gamer? Or are you just asking questions as if you would be a vegan? That's a question that is better discussed. It's low on the list of things to discuss. To be totally honest with you, I'm not going to get into the ethics of taking medicine at this point. But yeah, you can find an alternative, basically. You try to find an alternative. Why don't you stop preaching veganism and start preaching Jesus Christ of Nazareth? Orthodox Boxing says. I don't know why. Why would I do that? Sorry. If I'm talking about animals and trying to get people to view animals differently and stop hurting them, that doesn't mean I am anti-Christian. Why don't you preach then about Jesus, or do you preach about Jesus, or are you preaching about boxing? I don't know. It's like, why doesn't anyone stop what they're doing and preach about Jesus? I don't really understand what you're trying to say. What have we got? Daniel Barber's asking, do you think anti-vegans help our cause? I think, yeah, some of them do, some of them don't. Okay, so the ones that do help the cause are the ones that make themselves look very silly and are clearly on the surface just absolutely lost it. They're out of their minds. Yes, they help the cause. The ones who don't help the cause are the ones who actually are able to fake as if they were intellectual, pseudo-intellectuals. They pretend and act as if they're actually smart, and they say things that are really stupid, but they sound smart. Those people are terrible. They go on Joe Rogan a lot, these guys, and they get that whole podcast scenario set up with a nice microphone, and they say really dumb stuff. And because it looks professional and it's Joe Rogan, a lot of people believe in Joe Rogan and what he says, then, that's really bad because it's hard. You can disprove them and you can prove they're wrong, but your facts that disprove them will never go as far as the Joe Rogan podcast. And that's a really difficult thing to fight with, yeah. So yeah, hope that answers your question, mate. Guys, get in a few more questions if you got them, because we're going to be closing off at some point, all right? What happened to the person from earlier that I was asking about the killing and the good or bad ways of killing? Did they not come back? I don't want to say she because I'm not sure if you were here as she, but if you're still here, I can't remember your username. Please get back involved because I thought we were having a good thing there and I was interested to see what you'd have to say. But if you're not around anymore, no worries. Yeah, so... Yeah, last chance, guys. Last chance to throw in some questions now. I'll give you a couple moments to do it, but I think we've covered quite a lot today. I hope this has been... Hey, guys, listen. While we're waiting for a couple more questions, you know what you should do for me? You should hit that subscribe button. You should hit that subscribe button right now, because if you hate vegans, then hit the subscribe button. And if you love vegans, you should also hit the subscribe button. So you should do both of those things. Because either way... Noob Gamer, we're not going to get into that, mate. Well, I can tell you briefly, but stop spamming, bro. But I'll tell you briefly the answer to that. How to stop animal testing in labs. There are alternatives to animal testing. There are entire groups and systems and groups of scientists that have set up literally to oppose animal testing, not just vegans, just scientists who oppose it because it's cruel and violent and unnecessary, and there are better options now which are more accurate and give better results. If you want to know more about why animal testing is completely pointless at this point, go and watch videos by Dr. Faraz Harsini. Dr. Faraz Harsini, he is a scientist who works in food science, he works in protein synthesis and things like that, I think it is. That's his specialty. And he has also worked in a lot of industries where they tested on animals, and now he's very passionately against it. Very intellectual guy, very impressive. Go check out his channel, Dr. Faraz Harsini. What's that question? Are you going to apologize for trying to stop meat eaters from enjoy meat that's really offensive? Apologize. Oh my goodness. Sam Hawks, what if you have overpopulation? How would we control it without killing? Sam, the only reason that any animals would be overpopulating is because of something we've done. So there are ways to control populations and to help animals without killing them. There are ways to do it. There's ways to affect how the breeding patterns are. There's ways to do it without killing. But that's the main one. The contraception, I've heard, is the leading one. There are people who are much smarter than me, who are researching this a lot more than I am, who have methods that don't involve going out, giving some people guns and trying to kill animals. And we should be choosing to consider every single method possible before even considering going out and shooting animals dead. Because at the end of the day, the hunters want that because that's all they want to do. They love that, don't they? So, in terms of overpopulation, though, if you're talking about like, oh, what happens if the animals overpopulate? That won't happen because the only reason there are so many animals is because farmers keep breeding them. So if you stop paying farmers, they'll stop breeding them. Poppy's saying, can you recommend a good vegan protein brand that tastes good, like vegan protein powder? There's one by Optimum Nutrition, I think it's called. That tastes pretty good. There's also one called Plenty. It comes from Netherlands. I really like that one. They all taste fine. If you just get like a soy protein or a pea protein, or I've never really had any recently that tasted bad necessarily. You just make sure you get one that's flavored with like vanilla or chocolate. Safe flavors, vanilla or chocolate. Don't mess around with anything else and you'll be fine. What's this? You were raised vegetarian, so it's completely pointless talking to you, because if you were raised by meat eaters, you wouldn't think this way. You eat whatever you want. People will always eat meat. Listen, Reese, mate, let me explain to you why that doesn't make sense. That's like somebody who was raised being told racism is bad, speaking to somebody who believes racism is fine, and the person who says racism's fine is saying, well, I shouldn't listen to you because what do you know? You've been raised thinking racism is bad. You should just let people be racist. It's like, well, no, I was raised with good values. I was raised treating animals with respect. I was raised with compassion for animals. You weren't. You were raised being told they're for you to kill. Screw them. Just hurt them and kill them and just eat them. It doesn't matter. Or you were raised being told they don't have any pain and suffering. They just go to sleep in the slaughterhouse and then we eat them. Either way, mate, you were raised that way. And all I'm trying to do is undo what I think is a bad way of raising somebody, is to teach them that animals are just things for us to eat. Or they lied to you and said that they were raised with love and affection. Either way, it's either you're raised with violence or you're raised with lies. All I'm trying to do is change that and change your perspective. Just the same way as somebody else who was raised with different values that are good, we're trying to change the different values of people who were raised with values that weren't so good. Like if someone's raised being told horrible things, saying, oh, I don't know, black people are bad or whatever, and somebody else was raised being told we're all equal, it's fine, then the person who's been told that we're all equal, you shouldn't be racist, I absolutely want them to go and talk to the other people who had the bad lessons and try and convince them otherwise. It's a strange thing that you wouldn't want that. It's really unusual. Yeah. All right, guys. Good stream, guys. Good stream. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, as I said, make sure to subscribe if you hate me and subscribe if you love me. Either way, subscribe because it's all fun for you, isn't it? You get to come and have some fun, get involved in the chat, or if you're a vegan or you support what I'm saying, you get to come and learn some stuff and get some passion. Either way, win-win. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. Appreciate it. If you enjoy what I do, if you support my work, please do consider joining the memberships team here on YouTube. Just hit the join button right there down below and you be part of my team. You get some access to some content that nobody else gets, some videos that nobody else gets. Or you can do Patreon if you don't want to give YouTube any money for whatever reason. Then you can come to my Patreon. The link is right there in the description. It's completely separate from YouTube and Google. So either way, whichever way you want to do it, please consider helping me because then I can do more of this work. Thanks again, guys. Catch you all in the next one.